The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsport Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Live tonight from the Daytona International Speedway, LSRTV, happy to say good evening sim racing fans and welcome to the Super Duels at Daytona, part of our continuing coverage of the Season 15 Superspeedway Cup Series Championship. Speed Weeks rolls on into week number 2 as we're happy to have you topside with us at LSRTV. And tonight, and the finishing positions in tonight's 2 Super Duels at Daytona will set the qualifying grid for next week's Superspeedway 500. Positions 3rd on back. That's because if you were with us right at the start of the evening 1 week ago, you would know that the top 2 drivers in qualifying locked in their positions. So Mark Jorgensen Jr. is going to be on pole next Friday. Ray Rittenauer is going to be 2nd. So if they want, you will still see them on track here tonight, but they are the only 2 drivers who know where they will be racing in 1 week's time. Everybody else going to have to rely on this first 45-minute race, and for the other half of the field on the 2nd Super Duel immediately following this one to know where they will start for next week's season opener.
It certainly will, Evan, and good evening. Of course, as you said, points-paying races tonight, which means not only do you have to get a good starting spot for the 500, but, well, you need an early start on where you go this season. These guys are going to, of course, get some good results in this one. As we mentioned, this is for the starting spots, and the further forward you start, generally the safer things tend to be. But we know this series, that can all change in a heartbeat, so these guys need to focus on getting good race results here. Smaller fields, better racing, but Evan, the big new change this season for these races and the rest of the season, time.
Yeah, if me saying 45 minutes kind of threw you off, then don't worry, it's going to be a little bit of an adjustment for even us topside to figure things out. Unlike in seasons past, and we will still have races this season that will have a lap counter. One, for example, is next week in the Superspeedway 500. That one going to be 124 laps. All the special events, special distances are going to be on laps, but for all the regular events on the season and for tonight's race, we are going to be running it based on time. So both of tonight's Super Duels at Daytona are 45-minute races. That clock starts when the drivers cross the start-finish line and collect the green flag, and when that clock runs out, the drivers will be given the white flag. So they still know when that end's going to be coming up, Rachel, because they're going to be watching that time. It's just going to be a little bit different than watching laps count down.
It certainly is a bit more of an endurance racing feel here running to a clock, but it certainly helps us. I mean, for me especially, these races are late at night, so having a time clock means I'm not going to be having these 5 o'clock ends that we've had with some of these races where things have gone a bit crazy. But it does mean, though, these guys need to keep an eye on the cautions, Evan, because if you have a few, that ruins your number of racing laps where you can make places. So you have to be very careful, because you've got to get those positions early, because who knows how many cautions will come out. It changes everything.
Correct. Instead of having a caution come out and we lose about 5 laps or so, the clock does not slow down at all under the caution flag. So we're going to be losing, if you look at it for a grand scheme of things, each caution is going to take more time out of the race time under this format than it would under the old one. So that is going to be something that we're going to be walking you through as the night continues to go on. Drivers are headed trackside, so let's take a look at your starting grid for Super Duel number 1, part of the the Superspeedway Cup Series Season 15 Speed Weeks here from the World Center of Racing. The driver who qualified on pole position 1 week ago, and it will start from the front of next Friday's Superspeedway 500 field. Mark Jorgensen Jr. is going to take the green flag in duel number 1. He already has, though, that number 1 starting spot locked up for next week. Now, Paul Servant is going to roll from second. We said that the top 2 were locked in. Paul Servant was 3rd best in qualifying, so second in this duel, and everybody else on the back going to be fighting for as best as 3rd position in the Superspeedway 500 graded. Paul Servant joins Jorgensen in the front row in second. Chris Piscini, Seth the Merchant, good qualifying efforts. Both of them were in the final round of Q 1 week ago. They will start row 2, 3rd and 4th respectively, and just behind them, Dana Osborne, scheduled to roll out from 5th. That car not currently on the racetrack.
Setting out, of course, Rod Flag coming off in 6th place tonight with Matt Bontempi in the 7th spot. Brendan Chaburko back in 8th, always a fan favourite. Number 9, Christine Pedersen, starting on pit road tonight. Gary Champion will be in the 10th spot, Evan.
Brandon Cruz-Montevite's going to be the first driver just outside of the top 10. He will start from 11th position. He had a fast car, put up a second best time in the warm-up session. Dan Harrington outside row 6, going to start alongside him in 12th. Jimmy Coleman gets tonight's unlucky number 13 starting position. Travis Brown alongside him in 14th position. Mike Schultz 15th, and as well we'll have Daniel Holloway in the number 16 position. Victor Bartlett coming back to the series will start in 17th, and Tommy Hall will roll from 18th position. So again, second on back, fighting for as best as 3rd. The odd-numbered starting positions next week going to be determined based on the finishing order right here, right now, in Super Duel number 1 at Daytona. And as always, we're happy that you're spending your evening with us here on LSRTV and iRacing Live. The iRacing.com pace car going to dive to the pit lane, field in the hands of your pole sitter. Jorgensen takes the American Ethanol green flag. We are underway from Daytona Beach.
Good start as well. A lot of shuffling around there. We saw the 10-car flag drop down early. He's taking his spot on the low side to ride for a period of time here. Number of throwback liveries in this field tonight, so quite a few drivers there showing some old school paint here. Will we see some old school racing? Evan, I think that's very likely.
Based on how these guys go at it, they're not fans of riding single file in line like some of the big pack stuff you see these days. And, well, that 2-car tandem isn't necessarily a thing. You got 2 teammates running 1-2 right now, working together in order to try to control the pace of this race. As always, we see the outside lane struggle on the opening lap. Everybody's single file at a quarter number 4 as that outside lane really just dissolved into the bottom lane of the racetrack. Lap 1 complete, and the 88 machine up front.
Sitting here at the 88 machine of Jorgensen Jr. sitting out front where he is often found in this field. Alongside him, Chris Piscini right behind him in the 3 of Savant behind them. Brandon Cruz-Montevite, strong showing in qualifying, Evan, and potentially strong showing in the races. He pulls out with Savant here to go for a run towards the front, as did Flag. And they're going to try and make something happen in this. No, Flag gets cold feet and he leaves him out to dry.
No surprise that it is that number 3 machine, Paul Servant, again, just so good at qualifying, starting up front. He had just gotten knocked off with the front row lock-in for the 500 after the last driver went out in qualifying. It dropped him from what was 2nd at the time down to 3rd. So again, all the odd-numbered qualified positions in this duel number 1. And 2nd place is going to get 3rd in the 500. 3rd place is going to get 5th, and so on and so forth. So they're fighting for the inside row of next week's season opener. And although the Superspeedway 500 is the season opener of this season 15 championship, as noted, points are on the line tonight for the first time this season. So that's why that 88 machine of Mark Jorgensen Jr., despite being locked in and having that number 1 position guaranteed for next week, is still in the field here tonight, trying to get some bonus points, maybe go into the technical first race on the season with a points lead, which would be a bad deal for the 88. He continues to lead as we now have 3 laps complete from Daytona, the 3 and the 54 without some backup starting to fade a little bit on the outside of the racetrack.
You know, I thought I was seeing something at first, Evan, when I saw so many Miller cars out on the track, but you know what? Turns out there actually are 4 of them. Maybe this is the old cups and balls magic trick. They're going to be saying, keep your eye on the ball, where's it gone, which cup's it under, because these guys are normally all racing around each other. And I think this is maybe some sort of little distraction strategy coming on from these guys.
It really is a bright blue. It's hard to miss those guys. The blue on that Oreo Chevy, a Servant up on the outside, is much more of a dark blue. The blue on all of those light machines is very bright, and if you subtract the 57 and Merchant from the equation, they would be running 1, 2, 3, and 4. He'll go to the outside, so there you go. They're all lined up on the inside of the racetrack. Jorgensen, Piscini, Flag, and now the 22 of Chaburko occupying the first 4 positions on the inside of the racetrack. And we'll see if the 57 can get something going up top. The 3 and the 54 were able to pull up even with the race lead when they first made the move to the outside. Started to fade, though, once they lost some of that support. Now with the Merchant in front, we'll see if they can do something with that little bit of a run. The 22 of Chaburko going to join the party. He goes topside as they make a charge in turn 3.
Yeah, they certainly do. On the outside line, going to make a move here. Seth the Merchant never wanted to sit in the shadows. He's going to go for a run on the outside here. Getting pushed there by Savant, the 22 of Chaburko. Well, might be teammates with the 2 cars on the inside, but he's never wanted to miss the opportunity to get himself to the front in this race. As Monster Vice has dropped back quite a bit behind them, as has the 01 right further back at the 16 cars. Says Travis Brown and Mike Schultz. The outside lane just fading a little bit behind them. These 3 on the front, they need to get something going here or get some help from below to make this really work.
And those are some of the new names to the Superspeedway Cup Series for the Season 15 Championship. They're going to have to try to work their way up through the field like the 78 of Jimmy Coleman is doing, getting right into the mix in that all-black number 78 Toyota, mixing himself up with some of the series veterans here in Daytona. Look at the 88 machine of Jorgensen continuing to control the pace of this race with now 8 laps and nearly 5 minutes of our 45-minute total complete. He moves up to the outside of the racetrack and walks that 57 back down the hill. That prevented the 57 from being able to get around him. It does end up costing Piscini a position, but nice move by the 88 to control the outside. Was able to keep him in front, and as you see the 57 go up, 88 goes to block, and he got deked out. Seth the Merchant walks Jorgensen up the hill, crosses him over, and he'll take the race lead.
This makes things a little shaky here. 3 wide here, coming off turn number 4. And we've got teammates on alongside teammates here. The 1 to 10 on the low side, the 88 and 22 up in the middle. 3 of Savant up on the outside lane there. It's now 3 wide and 78 in the middle, further back. And Savant wanted out of that mess there. But Seth the Merchant making his intentions very clear so far this season. And it's not going to be a good sight in his mirror, Evan, seeing 4 of those middle light machines right behind him. He knows he's an outnumbered man.
He's got to expect that they're not going to have his best interest in their mind. We see it sometimes as you see the 1 jump up for the bottom, and that 57 was very cautious of going up and blocking. When the 88 went up and blocked the 57, he was committed, and that gave DeMerchant enough of an opening to cross him over and get back down to the bottom, so not trying to allow his own move to be used against him. When that 1 went up high, DeMerchant only went up about half a lane to kind of try to discourage the 1 from doing that. Wasn't able to do so, though, and the 1's able to go to the outside. Piscini led that time by. He'll slide down to the inside. First time tonight, Chris Piscini, the rookie, in front at lap number 9.
They certainly are, of course, and we are being told that these guys are running this middle light livery, folks. It's not your eyes, it's not trading paints that's the problem. They're all running the same livery to commemorate one of the former members who's just retired from the series, Josh Hanna. Evan, who's left the series after a long period of time with this group, a number of years, and well, they're sad to see him go, and they want to celebrate one of his most popular liveries.
And if you could again get Seth the Merchant, that pesky 57 out of the way, they're in fantastic position. You got to think DeMerchant just feels swarmed at the moment just by how bright those cars are, and they're all around him as they run at the moment. A 42 machine now trying to get into the picture. I think really first time tonight we've seen Victor Bartlett get up to P6, and he'll now get the 5th spot as the 22 drops back a little bit. So the mellow yellow Chevrolet race high P5, looking for maybe getting into 4th. By the time this lap is complete, he started 2nd to last in 17th position, and he's done a really good job of working his way up through the field early in this one.
Yes, and he has, and that's something we are kind of noting in this, of course. Victor Bartlett showing some real chops for this racing, of course, running a Colt Trickle style livery going on this car. In fact, with the 42, it's something Carl Larson actually ran at Darlington, but it's rather cool to see in this field, such a retro livery. We've seen a couple before. Oh, Demergent getting wobbly there. That's not Demergent, it's his teammate. The number 23, I think that is, going down a lap. Christian Pedersen just held himself low. He had a right to, but kind of made it awkward for the field.
And you see as they try to snake their way through, the goal there for the 23 was, 28 going to get turned though sideways, and Jorgensen into the outside fence, and big problems in 3 and 4.
Well, I think this was going to happen, Evan, as we'll try and get a replay up for you there. They'd passed the car, but they were still a little unsettled from moving up into that lane, and, well, Jorgensen Jr. just dropped the front end of the car. He just went round.
Yeah, but the 23 was doing there, and it's part of, I think, why this wreck happened, and somewhat indirectly, is that if he went to the outside and let everybody go by, he would have gotten lapped and would have lost touch with the group. So by going on the bottom, they all have to accordion around him. The idea is that he would kind of get swallowed by that field and end up a part of it. And it had looked like the 88 and the 82 were cleared through of it, and the 82 went up just a little bit, got close on the left recorder panel, and I don't think they got into each other, so maybe took some of the air off of the 88 machine and got sideways. And the problem was when he snapped up the hill, he got into the fence, but then bounced back down the hill. And, you know, for the guys like the 78, the 18, and the 01, there's really nothing you can do there besides get on the brakes and hope that it works out. But that went from 0 to 100 real quick. Everybody was, for the most part, reminding their P's and Q's and running in line. And I was just getting to talking about, maybe fuel strategy here with the limited fuel cell this season, and just like that big accident to slow us down for the first time tonight.
Certainly will do, of course. And that incident there, just to explain this for the guys at home, people watching, it's not as though he comes up and it kind of nudges the air towards him. It's more that by moving his car up there, Evan, it's the airflow goes around both sides of these cars, okay, and that's what keeps them stable in the corners. When he moves up like that, the airflow hits the front of the car on the low side, and it splits round them, creating kind of a vacuum between the two cars. And that lack of air there suddenly reduces stability, because you've got air pushing on one side and nothing pushing back on the other, so the car starts to turn. And once you lose that air on a quarter panel, especially the back corner, inner corner, you're like a spinning top. You have no rear grip, and the car will just turn.
Just a little bit of shuffling as drivers came down to the pit lane to get fuel there. They didn't really need to get a whole tank of fuel, and to be fair, even if they did, it would only be half a tank, so you could probably get away with 2 tires each time, but just a little bit of fuel was required. Chris Bassini did go with left side tires. He was the first driver down to the pit lane, but overshot the pit box, so they had to put it into reverse. Still decided to go with the tires. He was able to get fuel. He did cost him some position, so Rod Flag and Seth Demergent going to jump out in front of him. Mike Schultz, though, is going to take over the race lead provisionally, as he is now the first driver lined up behind the pace car, and Dan Harrington will also assume the second position. However, the 82 machine came down pit road, missed the pit box. He turned in like he was looking forward, and I think just drove a little bit too far, dove back out to the right side of pit lane and kept going. So I would expect both of the 76 and the 82 machine to want to come back down pit road, because again, with the limited fuel cell, you're not going to get much more than 23 or so laps. So running out there right now at lap 13, unless you're really banking on another short run, I would say don't take a hit from the dealer, come back down.
You gotta say there, once you get a caution, what do they breed? Cautions. So we've had one. Chance of another one is quite high. These caution periods are going to be like 8 to 10 minutes each, especially with lap down cars looking at 10 minutes per caution realistically, because it's about a 2-minute pace lap here at Daytona. So it can mean that if we have more than one, that's already chopped our racing time, Evan, down to 25 minutes. If we have 2, we've had 1 now. It's bunched the field up. Chances of a second caution high. Yeah, watch half this race just disappear out the window.
So we did see coming down to the pit lane that time by, as I had thought would happen, was the 82 of Harrington. The deal with Schultz is Schultz actually did pit, but he did not pit with everybody else. So I looked down to see everybody on pit lane. Everybody pitted. He drove around him. I incorrectly assumed that the 16 of Schultz did not pit. He got some damage in that accident and came right down to the pit lane to get it fixed. He used a quick repair. That's why that car's back to normal. but when he came right in after the accident, he technically entered a closed pit. So he is going to get an end of the longest line penalty. That's why you do see the 16 drop it back. So that kind of all sorts itself out. He'll drop to the back. Seth the Merchant is going to take over the race lead by winning that race off of the pit lane. The bad news at all of that was Dan Harrington, who was not in a terrible position when the caution flag came out, was running in 7th spot inside of the top 10 by missing his pit box. He's going to drop down to about 12th position or so. Not terrible. Could be worse. You could be talking about next week. If you have a mistake like that, you're going to have twice as big of a field size, and you might be back to 30th position. Still not good, though. That mistake could have cost him a handful of spots.
Yeah, will do indeed, of course. And, well, you can't really afford to lose many spots when we're talking about potentially a quarter of the race already going under caution period. Maybe another one. That's heading towards half the race distance. You lose positions now. It's going to really cost you in the long run, especially if we have another caution. Suddenly you're much further back and you're in real trouble spots. So these guys really need to focus on getting themselves to the front quickly. But what does that result in? Well, lots of cars in one place and more cautions.
Yeah, the lights go out on top of the pace car, but we're closing in on 31 minutes left in this race, so about 1/3 distance here tonight from Daytona. Again, earlier, typically we let you know that if a caution comes out, you lose about 5 laps of race distance, but under the caution flag, you're looking at nearly 2 minutes, laps under the caution flag. Nearly 8 minutes are going to be lost by each caution flag period in this race. A little bit more of a quicker rate of the percentage of the race you lose under yellow under a timed format than you do under a lap format. So just something to note as the night goes on. Again, that time at the top of your screen at the ticker. Once that gets down to 0, the drivers will take the white flag the next time by, and they are going to have to rely on maybe a couple of their teammates for the drivers who have friends and such in the second duel if they don't have a regular spotter or a crew chief on top of the box in this series. Again, iRacing, for those who have not raced on the surface before, will provide you with an automatic spotter, let you know who's inside and outside when, but a lot of these guys opt to have somebody talking to them in a spectator session in the sim as well, so it's going to be that person's responsibility to help the driver out on time, because you're not going to get a 5 to go and a 3 to go and a 2 to go. You're going to get a white flag, and you need to be in position when that moment comes.
Yeah, that's very true, and well, that's going to have to happen very quickly, and like I said, that can lead to some problems. But Seth the Merchant out front with those Miller cars around him is going to be in a tricky spot, of course. Jorgensen Jr. is still in competitive position, but he could have to work his way forwards here. He's in the inside lane, so it'll be a little bit harder initially, but the green flag, Evan, will fly.
So 15 laps going to be complete, 1/3 distance in SuperDUEL number 1. Good jump on the outside of the racetrack. Rod Flag technically had it at the line by 1/1000th of a second. But again, expect the inside to be better as we go off to 1 and 2. Inside pulls by 1, now 2 car lengths, really with a lot more speed getting up through the gears.
Yeah, they really have. It's always an inside of line advantage, Evan, unless somebody really gets a good jump on the outside. But Shaburko's going to pull out and take Rod Flag with him on this initial charge towards the front, but thinks better of it, leaves Flag out on his own, and well, that's not going to please Rod very much. But Brandon does what Brandon needs. He's going to get a big shove here by the 42 car. He is giving him everything. Victor Bartlett, it started in 17th place and last here today, or second to last. He's doing a phenomenal job.
Restart comes with 12 drivers on the lead lap. Drivers who have lost their lead lap status. 13th position, Mark Jorgensen Jr., your pole sitter for tonight's race at next week's 500. Christian Peterson is 14th. Jimmy Coleman is 15th. And Daniel Holloway is 4 laps down in 16th. His night is all but done. But there is some hope for the 88, 23, and 78, who are all 1 lap down to be able to get themselves back to the lead lap if we do see another caution flag come out in this one. So just as we saw on the open run in this race, single filing out on the inside was the place to be, but a lot more spread out. After 2 laps off of the green earlier in this race, everybody was still bumper to bumper to bumper. You got a little bit of a breakaway amongst the top 3, and there you go. That's the problem with having those teammates around you, is you don't know if they are going to be loyal to you. And a 1 in the 22 completely abandoned Seth the Merchant on the inside. They'll go to the outside, take first and second, and a big head of steam topside might bring Paul Servant as well.
Certainly looks like it could do, of course. The outside there pushing forward, Servant, Monster Vice, and I think that's the 29 car, Tommy Hall started back in last place, actually. So 2 rear starters here, really making good progress, Evan. But the outside lane just not getting hooked together. The 1 and the 22, though. That is potent, and Pacini being pushed very hard there by Chaburko.
It was a big reason, I think, why they were able to keep their positions in line, is that number 22 machine of Chaburko was so aggressive on it, and Servant was very close. The 42 bailed Demerchant out, though, got to the bumper, and Servant wasn't able to get clear, so he drops back in line. He ends up 5th overall. After all of that, really tight on each other. Though, look at the 57 machine. I know that probably not a big fan of what the 1 and the 22 did to him, so he'll push a little bit more off of the exit of the corner, make sure that Chaburko is well aware that he is there. It's really dicey when you're in a position where 3 cars are making contact like that. To be the middle car, to be the Brandon Chaburko in that Chris Pacini and Seth the Merchant sandwich, because you're getting bounced back and forth between these cars so easy to get spit out of line. The 57 delivering the message.
Yeah, very much so. Delivering that one with some serious aplomb, actually, at the moment. The 57, definitely the flying the ointment up here at the sharp end with these Miller boys. As Savant also doing a good job here. He's sticking with the 57, so he has got 1 friend in this one so far, but Seth the Merchant getting right up in the grill of the 22 of Chaburko. He's going to force him to stay on the bumper there of the 1, which means he could overheat, so could put Chaburko in a tricky spot.
And we've seen drivers have overheating issues in the past here in this series. If there's any scenario that you have maybe a little bit more leeway to push, it is this race specifically, Daytona and Under the Lights. This is the shortest race on the 2017 Season 15 calendar. It is also probably the coolest because it's at nighttime. It's only 78 degrees Fahrenheit out there sometimes in the day when the sun's beating down. We're talking about track temps well over 110 degrees. So you got to keep an eye on how long you push. Big run down the Daytona Super Stretch for the 88 machine. Not a battle for position, although for the 54 machine it is. So you've got Monts of Ice using the lap down car of the 88 to advance his position. And if Jorgensen can get the lead from the 1, it would technically unlap himself. So that time by, as the 88 goes to the front of this pack, he is no longer 1 lap down. He is just the last driver on the lead lap yet to be lapped. I bet you the 1 and the 22 Rachel want to keep him there, so if we get a caution, he doesn't even need to rely on the wave around. He'll just group back up to the end of the field, and then Christian Peterson would get the lucky dog spot because now he's the first driver 1 lap down.
That's exactly what they'd like to have happen. And Brandon Cruz wants to vice there. Look at him running in such a fantastic spot. Was actually on the outside there, pushing forwards with the 23. That's like that. Chaburko slices up, and again, sometimes he makes these moves, and I'm not entirely sure why he's doing it, Evan, other than to perhaps
you're not the only
mess around and make a kind of statement. He does things just to kind of make his presence known, because pulling up there was no advantage. He was never going to go to the front. That was not a run. So unless he did it just to block or mess with them psychologically, I don't know. But he's certainly been known to be, shall we say, the erratic competitor.
I think that somewhere there's an idea and a concept behind what the number 22 is doing. I think it will kind of scare somebody off or try to make a move on him and to be like, you know what, running behind him is not the worst thing I could be doing, closing in on the halfway point in this race. So nonetheless, though, the Miller Lite Machine's in the exact position that they want to be in. Technically 2, 3, and 13th on track, but again, that 88 machine is currently the last driver on the lead lap. The 1 and the 22 aren't going to let anybody go by him, and credit needs to be given to Monts of Ice. Monts of Ice gave that 88 such a great push, Rachel, and 88 dropped down to the inside, so Brandon's thinking, all right, my turn. Then he goes to try to make a move with the 88, and they said, no, that's not happening. That's not how this is going to go down. So the 54 really helping out the 88, gets the short end of the stick because he fell back at the outside, and it falls into 5th position on the racetrack. There's 2 lap cars in the top 7 of this group, only top 5 at a racetrack, technically speaking. So we'll see if he can do something. But that car's looked good so far, so don't count him out of this race. Look at a complete 24 laps.
That's it, exactly. And he's one of those guys that really does dice, wants to survive. Constantly look at this one. He really wants to make something happen here. So expect to see him pushing very, very hard. Where's Jorgensen Jr.? He's still, well, he's back up at the sharp end. No, he's lapped. So I was completely mistaken there. He's just being held at the front by his teammates, which will give him an advantage if they get a caution. But, well, we've got 22 minutes remaining. We're at halfway, Evan.
And this move throws me off right here. So Chris Massini running in line behind him goes to the outside of the racetrack to work with the 57 and now drops down in front of the 88. So unless it was a switch, and if it was very well executed, using another car to do it. But for the 88, now he is no longer on the lead lap. Scoring an update, he has technically now been lapped by new race leader Chris Passini. Yes, technically Passini was the race leader the whole time, but now Jorgensen is a lap down. So still in a good spot because he's in the lucky dog position, but the 88 fighting with the 23. 23 only a couple of cars back. That is the second driver, one lap down. So if the 88's on the lead lap, then the lucky dog can go to the 23. So now that Jorgensen is off for the lead lap, you see the 57 and the 23 trying to work together. Seth the Merchant is going to do all he can to get his teammate, the 23 of Peterson, in front of the 88 in that battle for the lucky dog position. The 22 of Chaburko saw what was happening and went up and blocked him. So it's fascinating watching these two groups go together, fighting for that strategy.
Yeah, they very much are, and now we've got some two lanes forming up here. The Merchant's going to make a move. His teammate's going to come with him here, the 23 car. Give his lead lap teammate a bit of a push, but he'll drop back and stay out of this one. Miller cars are now going to be three of them there within 2 lanes, and 42, real presence as the 22 Jabuk goes all the way to the top of the backstretch. Not sure what he's got planning here, but he might be going for a dive down and try and make some momentum happen.
He's way up on the outside. The 54 started to follow him and crossed him up. So Chaburko dropping back on the outermost lane of the racetrack. This time by past the halfway point as we close in on 20 minutes to go here tonight from Daytona. So let's take this opportunity to take a look at our iRacing Midway Race Break for Super Duel number 1, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation. Developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service, iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all across the globe. But in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and many more. Past the halfway point on time here tonight, Chris Passini is your race leader as we work what is lap number 28 of time so far. But again, the clock at the top of your screen, what is most important. Running second on the racetrack, the 42 of Victor Bartlett. Again, the 88 is not a lead lap car. Seth the Merchant runs in third, Brandon Cruz Vice fourth, and Paul Servant fifth. That time by the start finish line. Tommy Hall up a good amount of positions. He was all the way at the back at 18th when this race started. He's plus 12, but runs in sixth at the moment. Dan Harrington behind Tim in a number 7 spot. Ron Flagg runs in 8th. Mike Schultz is 9th, and Brandon Chaburko rounds out our top 10.
Currently running back in 11th place is Travis Brown, Gary Champion in the 12th spot, last year lead lap cars. Those two running together a little bit further back from the field. Mark Jorgensen Jr. lap down, leading this field, or at the front at least. Christian Pedersen, Jimmy Coleman in 15th place, Daniel Holloway in 16th with Daniel Osborne, and Matt Bontempi are non-runners.
That's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com and sign up today. For a limited time, you can visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of some exclusive promo codes. If you're thinking about just trying out iRacing, you can get a 3-month membership for less than $5. Or if you're ready to get your sim racing career started, get yourself a 1-year subscription for over 50% off the sticker price. Those promo codes are good for the rest of 2017, and they are valid on new iRacing memberships only. Again, for more information on that, go to iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. 30 laps complete, 18 minutes to go here tonight from Daytona. 3 wide for the race lead as the 88 machine still part of this battle up front, and Mod Suffice is going to be caught out. He's been so good so many times. Rick Chillen continues to get the short end of the straw as he falls back on the outside after being, again, in a really good position.
Yeah, he's got a short end there, but it's not the shortest of ends. He's managed to keep himself in this lead group, although he had a tricky run up there 3 wide. Jorgensen Jr. lap down, still going to push 57 of Seth the Merchant there. Keep him moving around here and put him in a position where he will still get lucky dog rather than be waved, but we don't know what he's going to do to Merchant. Maybe he wants him past the one so he can get pushed up to the front himself. Would be what I'd be doing if I was that 88 car, but right now he's just riding lucky. Actually, no, he's already locked in, so he doesn't need to finish, is he?
Yeah, he's got the top spot locked up, but again, and I was questioning if this was NASCAR rules, the way that it works there is if you qualify on a pole for the 500, but you wreck out in the duel, you have to go to a backup car, you lose your spot. Luckily for him, that's not a thing. We do have quick repairs, but there is no backup car rule, so he could have just decided not to show up, but again, because of the interesting way that this works, although technically season opener is not until next Friday, points are on the line. So that's why the 88 really desperately trying to get back in front. Not going to affect him next week, but it is going to affect the point standings into next week.
Certainly can, of course, and points mean prizes in this series. Every point you can get is a huge advantage. The 42 car to the outside there. As they're going to try and go around one. Everyone's abandoning Passini on the low side. 42 from the 17th starting position goes straight to the sharp end as he moves down to block the 88, who dives and weaves and slots back in line barely in front of Seth the Merchant there. That was hairy considering he's, well, I think we could tell Jorgensen Jr. is racing with a grin on his face.
That was close. I could see what the 88 was thinking about doing, but it almost worked. It was a good job of driving by Victor Bartlett, a series veteran in this series. Has been around since the early years as contact up front. Gonna check everybody up at quarter number 1. Everybody gonna lose a lot of speed as we saw spinning from the front row in that one.
88.
Was, I believe, the 88 of Jorgensen. Yeah, one car incident as he spins off to the inside, so I don't think a caution is gonna come down from the front. That's the risks that the 88 was taking by being a part of that battle up front, trying to get his lap back. No caution though, we stay green. That basically ends off his night though.
Problem though for him, he seemed to slow down very dramatically. I'm not sure if he got loose. Chiberko falls below the yellow line there as they come out of 4, but I think he slowed down. I think he got loose over the trial 11, and that's a concern for Seth the Merchant because he hit him pretty hard, and I think he has front end damage. He does. That could definitely affect his leading performance if he gets to the sharp end of the race.
The good news for Merchant is he has his teammate behind him, which is the best position he could be in. Front end damage, though, we were talking about engines overheating a little bit earlier on in the night. That can really cause problems with that to the point where if you don't come down pit road to get the front end fixed, it could overheat the engine. Drivers starting, though, to talk about coming down pit road for service. Again, another new rule for season 15 is they've only got a 55% fuel cell, and here we come to pit road. Victor Bartlett drops down, he's gonna get turned. Race leader into the grass.
Oh, big problems there for the 42 of Victor Bartlett as, well, he slowed down a little too much. In fact, he went a little deep, and it was contact from, it's a difficult one to say, he comes across, I think, a little bit, and
in the 3
23 lap down car wrecked him, yeah, and the 3 dumped himself. He put himself into the inside wall and someone's pit crew. He came in very hot though, Evan, and I think he locked up.
Yeah, first green flag pit stops of the season. The 3 came from way back on the outside, trying to get it slowed down. He couldn't. And then I don't actually think the 42 got hit. The angle that I saw the first time, it looked like DeMerchant locked it up and got into him, but I don't know what kind of an angle we can get for the replay on that one, but the 42 gets sideways and just overcorrects and snap back, and I don't think Seth the Merchant actually hit him.
I'd say it's pretty difficult to say in that one, but I think he might have made slight contact. It's just, I need to go and have a look at this one myself again just to see exactly what happened, but it wasn't Seth the Merchant anyway. It was the 23 car, as we just said. The Merchant's teammate in the inverse livery, Christian Pedersen, who actually made that contact, I think, but I'm going to look back myself.
I think it might have been close, but I don't know if he actually got into him. If he did, it was very gentle. They were all kinds of out of shape.
Evan, you're right. He didn't touch him. They came close to being very close, but as you notice, just as he gets near him, he's starting to snap left like the 3 of Paul Savant did, and he overcorrects himself and whips right.
So apologies to the 23 on that one, but there was no contact, and it's a tough break for Victor Bartlett. I think Bartlett thought he got hit too. I couldn't quite make out what he said over the radio, but he ended up in the grass and said something. It could have been just that, him venting his frustration by the mistake, or he thought he got hit, but take a look at a couple of times, he did not. So second time by, we saw everybody else come down to the pit lane. So just like that, everybody has now completed their pit service, and with only 12 minutes left to go in this race, about just a little bit under a minute per lap, we're not going to be able to get to 23 laps to need drivers to come back down to get fuel for the rest of this thing. So that'll do it for the evening. So new race leader is going to be Brandon Chaburko in the number 22 machine, which I find very interesting because he had an atrocious stop on pit road as we were taking second looks at everything that had happened on the incident for the first group coming down. He overshot the box, put it in reverse, backed up, didn't back up enough, and to back up again, got fuel, left side tires. The 22 machine, though, in the race lead.
Yeah, that's true, and we just heard the 88 from one of his teammates saying he blew up. That's why he lost pace, so that's going to be an interesting one for him. He ran it until it blew. I think he was pushing too hard. Things have changed. Chaburko out front here, Passini second, to Merchant third, Flag, and that's our front group. Then the second group is, of course, Hall, Monsivice, Bartlett. This has changed everything now because we're going to run on time here. 10 minutes left, 11 minutes left, and lap 39. We actually know we'll make this, I think, on laps.
So with the 22 and 1 machine, there were 4 of them at the beginning. There is still 3 in the picture. The 10 is right there, minus the 88, so a tough break for Mark Jorgensen Jr. He will have the best option out of everybody next week to get points in the 500 because he will start on pole position via qualifying in pole 1 week ago. That you saw here on LSRTV. But he is not going to get a lot of points out of this, so he is going to have to start the season out at somewhat of a disadvantage. He'll finish no better than 15th position tonight, 5 laps down. I basically think the 88 is calling it in and is done for the night. The interesting thing about the 88 losing the engine is, Rachel, when he got spun because he blew the engine and had lost a lot of pace right in front of Merchant and got hooked off of the front bumper. What I find interesting about that is that the 88 was up front and in clean air. Now, he was pushing quite some to get himself to that position, but that's concerning for all the other drivers. If you can get that engine heated up, get to clean air, and it still will not cool down, you have to be very careful with getting it up into the red to begin with.
Yeah, for sure, and that's something we've seen this season. There's a new package. It's much harder to get through that, but there's a bubble of air that forms behind the car, or between your front bumper and their back bumper. And as we see the run there on the outside, the 23, the 29, and the 54 moving along the outside of the front group, that bubble is very hard to get through, as the 22 will move up and defend now with the 29 coming forwards, but it's difficult to get through. But once you get through it, it's also very stale air there now with the new car shapes, which means that air stays hotter longer and you can't cool the car down as easily.
Starting to see drivers on the outside working for this one as we have a 6-car battle for the lead, and what a move by the 23 machine up through the middle. He'll split the gap, and now that is not for position. Bad for Brandon Chaburko, who went up to block because he will go all the way back to the end of this group of 7. So remember how much we were talking about Jorgensen trying to get his lap back earlier? Same applies for that 23 machine. The 23 of Christian Peterson is down a lap at the moment, and he's working with the 57 to set the Merchant to try to get the lap back, and he would need a caution though to get back to the front race, and with only about 8 minutes and 40 seconds left, he may not even be able to do that. So we'll have to wait and see how that one plays out. But there are 7 drivers that you're seeing on your screen in the lead pack, but it is a 6-way battle for the race lead. The 23 is not for position.
For sure, and I don't think we're going to see that one change too dramatically here. Passini's in a strong spot, as is 57 of the Merchant, who was strong last week, don't forget. Seth the Merchant has come out with fire this season, Evan.
He has been, and him and Seth the Merchant, once upon a time, a handful of seasons ago, were up top 5 every single race. It has been a little bit of time since we've seen both of those drivers commit themselves to a full-time Superspeedway Cup Series schedule at this level. And I know that we're only in the middle of speed weeks, but I'm liking what I've been seeing out of the 57 and the 23 so far to this point.
Yeah, absolutely. The 57 and 23 have been very good teammates. Jaburko there going under the line. Not sure what he's playing at, but yeah, he's having to make sure he cools that engine by a long stretch, gets himself away from that wide block there you get of air. This is why we think we've seen him move up quite a lot, is this bubble's quite wide, Evan, so he's having to do that to keep himself cool, which means he's pushing pretty hard. He wants to get back to the front here, and 7 minutes remaining. Time's running out.
And as you watch the top at the top of your screen, rather, and watch that clock begin to wind down, do want to remind you that coverage of tonight's Superspeedway Cup Series is brought to you by Duel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. Whether you spend your time in the sim, behind the wheel, on top of the pit box, or from the flag stand, JRT is your go-to software for iRacing scoring and timing analytics. You can get yourself a basic download or get the pro version today online at joel-real-timing.com, the official timing software of LSRTV. So based on what I kind of jotted down here after that first caution flag period, Rachel, about 8 minutes or so to get that complete. We're within inside of the final 7 minutes of this race, so like we would when we were talking laps and say at 5 laps to go or less that a caution would end us in, I think we're in that go or go home window now where a caution would not leave us enough time to restart.
Yeah, for sure. And with it being about 10 minutes, like you say, yeah, we're in that window. So if we get a flag now, look at this. We've got 3 lap cars up ahead of this lead group here, which could definitely be a major factor in how this one plays out, especially if they don't all pick the same side of the track to go to. That will really affect this one, especially some 3-wide racing, because I don't think the 23 is going to want to drop down. The rest do, though, so we could see this be no issue, but it's going to be hard to tell. The 22 is going to move up again and try for a run here. What is he doing? Trying to get the draft off the 78 car to pull himself forwards. This could leave him in a very awkward position now as he'll dive under the 23 car right back to the bottom lane. And Monsivice just on the tail of this group here. That puts him in a very favorable spot.
And things are going to get a lot more busy up front, because as we work around that lap traffic up on the outside of the racetrack, they are going to blend in with this lead pack. So now, instead of having a 6-way battle for the race lead amongst 7 cars, we're going to have a 6-way battle for the race lead amongst 10 cars. So 4 of the 10 drivers in this lead pack are off of the lead lap. So make sure you're looking at the top of your screen and to know which numbers you need to be looking at as far as the drivers who are battling for position. Just another quick point on how the caution flag may end up winding down in these races. Under the lap format, we would say 5 laps to go or less would be the go or go home point, but on time it's 8 minutes or less. 8 minutes on time, you can get around Daytona International Speedway 9 times. So that just goes to kind of furthermore prove the point that I was thinking aloud about earlier, that you lose a lot more time under the caution under this format than before.
Very much so, and that's going to mean these cautions do want to keep them to a minimum now. I think this could be a great tool for actually managing how aggressive people can get in these races, Evan. Maybe keep things more to a, do I want to risk a caution if I make this move? Will I have enough time if I do? So these guys have to think about things. Jaburko, once again, being a little bit on the crazy side. He's all over the place. It's very tough to kind of engage that guy.
Inside of 5 minutes to go from the Daytona International Speedway. So just a little bit under a minute per lap. Roughly maybe 4 laps to go this time by. We won't know until we get the white flag when that clock comes down to 0. So if you're not the 57, although the 57 has lost his help, he was trying to help out Peterson, but Peterson is now 5 cars behind him. So they're not really in the best of position. So basically, if you're anybody but the one at Piscini, the 10 Arada flag, with the 22 at Jaburko, you need to find somebody to work with, because when it's you versus 3 drivers every single time, you're going to be on the losing end. That one of the cheat of Piscini goes to the race lead with help from the team car of the 22.
Very much so, and Piscini out there in a very, very strong spot for the end of this race. About maybe 4 laps left, I think, at this point, as the 22 has worked his way back to the sharp end. 54 of Brandon Cruz Monsivice pushing him. Monsivice also in a position where he could capitalize should something go wrong, but if the one of the 22 can get level, I think these guys will control it as a team game.
Just trying to see who else is in this picture of the top 6. Tommy Hall was a part of this battle for the race lead. His 29, though, has lost contact with the back of that lead group. It's always so difficult to be the 23 machine, or rather to be the last driver in line, because you don't have the push from behind. That draft speeds, you're doing almost 15 miles an hour quicker than you do by yourself. So while Tommy Hall did have the advantage of the suck up to the car in front of him, he did not have any help of a push from behind, so he has lost touch with this lead pack. It is a 5-car battle for the race lead. That time, Piscini 1, Demerchant 2, Chiburko 3, Flag 4, and Monsivice 5. They're in front of all of the lap traffic, 3 on the inside and 2 on the outside.
It is right now, and the one on the outside, we'll keep an eye on there. The 22 car will be a major factor in this, and looking at this lap count, Evan, we're looking at about 50, 55 lap, well, 52, 53 laps, sorry, is our total for this race distance of 45 minutes with 1 caution. So that is very interesting in terms of lap numbers and fuel strategy and how long this can go under a 45-minute window. As the 22 car will get pushed by Monsivice up alongside the 1 here. So his teammates in front, teammates or friends at least in the second row. This is where things get dicey. 1 minute 30 to go.
Battle for the race lead going to continue on amongst teammates, but the 54 of Monsivice trying to be a factor. So now you've got the 1 and the 22 in the front row, but the 57 behind one of them and the 54 behind the other, contact on each other's door, as it looked like Demerchant trying to sneak his way up through the middle. We'll go 3 wide, work around lap traffic. Dan Harrington from 11th is going to fall off for the lead lap, closing in on 1 minute left in SuperDUEL number 1 at a corner 4.
Very much there as the 1 and 22 is still level. The Merchant trying to find his way out of that box he's been put in there by Chiburko, who seems to be riding his door pretty hard here. And Chiburko's going to try and find his way back in line. He knows there's not long to go. Why does he want to be in that position? As up comes Seth Demerchant. Piscini moves to block. Demerchant drops down, going to try for the double pass. Back up around him, but not going to happen as he'll push. Will he pull out? He gets him a little bit loose. He pulls alongside with an overlap. Now will this be to run? The 22 needs to push him clear.
And is this going to be the penultimate time to quarter 3? 30 seconds left on the clock. Demerchant leads the outside. You could argue that is the best position to be in. And I don't think that Brandon Chiburko would roll out of the gas to not push the 57. He would see putting the 57 to the lead as an advantage. Oh, and he loses the engine. Seth Demerchant is blowing up. Big problems at the start-finish line as they spin. Race leaders going to continue on. Piscini and Ron Flag running away.
And that is our white flag lap, of course. The time has run out, so we will run this lap to completion. And right now, it's looking like the 1 and the 10 are going to have to fight this one between the 2 of them for a win. But look at the head of steam the 23 has. He's a lap down. The 78 car is, I believe, also a lap down. So those guys are not in this fight. Will the 10 go for a run? Has he got time to make something happen? Could Rod Flag win? Piscini holds him up high. Coming out of turn number 4. It'll be a drag race to the line, and he has momentum. They're slamming doors. They're slamming doors as he'll win it. Rod Flag across the line in what was more a Phoenix finish than a Daytona run, Evan.
And if Piscini was the one who initiated the contact, he knew that Rod Flag had got him. It took him all the way up to the outside fence, but Rod Flag had gotten the position to get there. And the only thing that Chris Piscini could do was either stay on the inside and take the second place or try to challenge him for it. And he went up and initiated contact 2 times, 3 times, and he got himself loose. And as he comes across the start-finish line in the grass, Rod Flag is your winner of SuperDUEL number 1. And the reason those guys were able to race it out to the end was because that those drivers, as you saw, wrecking at the start-finish line, did not spin until after the start-finish line. That is when we took the white flag. So because of that, they were able to race it out, and the 10 machine is able to get the win. Rod Flag, your winner, the SuperDUEL number 1. An exciting way to get the night kicked off with SuperDUEL coming up in just a little bit. Gonna see if we can get your top finishers on the radio here in just a moment. Drivers in this race now done for the evening. Second half of the field gonna get set for Super Duel number 2. So if you enjoyed the finish in that one, as Rod Flag parks it on the start finish line, and that's how Chris Bassini feels about how that would have been down at the end. If you enjoyed Super Duel number 1, don't tweak the dial at all. Another 45 minutes of action from Daytona coming up here on LSRTV in just a few moments, as those drivers get set to race. Super Duel number 2 is still due up. Before we step away and get set for that one, let's take a look at our LSRTV full race results, though, from Super Duel number 1. So Rod Fly gets the win by 7/100ths of a second over Chris Bassini. Those two drivers were the only ones really fighting for it at the end. Brandon Cruz-Monsivice with a good finish comes home third, with Tommy Hall and Victor Bartlett inside of the top 5. It'll be a P6 result for Paul Servant, 32 seconds behind the battle for the race lead, I might add. 7th place for Travis Brown. 8th position tonight, Mike Schultz, final driver on the lead lap. The 22 of Brandon Chiburko, rounding out your top 10 down 1, Seth the Merchant.
So coming home in 11th place today, also a lap down, Christian Pedersen. The 23 car was up towards the front of the end. Dan Harrington in the 12th spot. Gary Champion, Jimmy Coleman, Daniel Holloway, Mark Jorgensen Jr., Matt Bontempi, and Dana Osborne.
Let's look at your LSRTV full race results. Now let's talk with some of your top finishers here tonight. From Super Duel number 1, the number 10 of Rod Flag takes the checkered flag, and we've got him on the radio. Rod, congratulations on that wild finish. Chris did everything he could and ended up putting himself into the grass at the end of that thing. Talk us through it, though, because you and that 10 were up front through it all.
Yeah, he just tried to, man, I know he was trying for everything he got, but man, he just roughed up my door, and I was trying. I knew I was going to have the momentum coming out of the backstretch, and he just kept pushing me up the track. I thought I was going to get in the wall, and boy, we were able to get out of 3 and 4, and I knew I had the momentum, and then he just hears big boom, and I'm like, oh my gosh, did we just wrecked our cars? And before I know it, we come across the line first, and I guess the bump he did, went against him there, and it spun him out into the infield. So, what a start to the season! I mean, get a playoff point, get 10 points to be the co-points leader after Duel 2. Unbelievable.
It was a fun race, and we also had some adjusted for us getting used to the time format. That wreck came just as the clock was striking 0, and we took the white flag, so you guys had the ability to race it out as all the problems happened behind you. How was it, though, for you adjusting to running on time? I know that fuel doesn't change. You're still able to go 20-some-odd laps on this tank, but having to keep track of that to know your fuel strategy, while also having to keep track of the time to know where you were. And something else we talked about is typically when we get to about 5 or 4 laps left to go, you know that, hey, if a yellow comes out before the white, we've got to go after it. In this, that's closer to the 7 or 8 minute mark. So there's a lot more preparation you have to do for the white flag. You can't count it down 4 to go, 3 to go, 2 to go. You kind of have to watch that time while racing. So how was that, trying to keep track of all that was going on?
Yeah, we at least I did. I knew I had an awareness of kind of what was going to be 5 to go. As soon as that clock hit about 4 minutes, I knew that's kind of your 5 to go signal, and then once you're under 30 seconds, you're going to come to 1 to go. So it's not a big change, somewhat, but I just know that I knew I knew where we were 2 to go. So I had awareness of that, and I think the other drivers had awareness of that, and that's why that wreck happened. Is I think people knew that it was coming to the white flag, and we were on that 2 to go lap. So I don't think it's going to change the end of the races very much, because we definitely have awareness of what was going on based on the time that was in front of us, and that's just math. So
you get the job done. It was an exciting finish with your teammate. You get the upper hand of it. I know that we often see you battling for these race wins, but to be fair, they don't tend to work out for you at the end. You guys seem to have a lot of rotten luck towards the end of these things. This one goes your way. I know that's got to feel good to get things kicked off for season 15.
You're damn right, Evan. This is amazing to get into victory lane, even though it's not the big one or a points win, or at least a race win that would get us in the playoffs, but it certainly is great to get into victory lane. It's great to get some points. It is awesome. We got back to victory lane after about 2.5 years last season. Got some great momentum, and we got to put the Josh Hanner Memorial paint into victory lane. Got to battle it out with Chris, who did the same thing. We're not teammates. I want to make that clear. We're not teammates. We just were memorializing Hanner and his efforts in the Superspeedway Cup, and we sure appreciate it.
Well, those cars were looking good up front, Ron. We'll let you take off. As somebody who drives, but also as somebody who makes this series happen, sponsors and shout-outs, who do you want to thank?
I just want to thank the drivers of Superspeedway Cup. I wish we could have took the Valvoline Pontiac to victory lane tonight. That's kind of sucks. We had this really cool 2001 Johnny Benson paint scheme painted up that you saw last week, and you'll see the rest of the season. But that's okay. It's for a good cause. And Josh Hanner, so I want to thank the folks at Middle Latwiser. Thank Josh Hanner. Thank Chris Bassini for the great paint scheme. And again, the drivers of Superspeedway. Thank LSRTV for everything they do.
It is your race winner in Super Duel number 1, Rod Flag. Rod, thanks for sticking around and chatting with us. Congratulations. We will see you next Friday.
Thanks, guys.
So we'll take this opportunity to step aside as cars are headed to the track for Super Duel number 2. The night of action is only halfway complete. Keep it locked. You're watching Superspeedway Cup Series at LSRTV and iRacing Live.
There are 3 different paths if you want to call yourself a world champion of sim racing. NASCAR, open wheels, or endurance racing. But no matter which one you take, you can guarantee that the journey will always be tough, which few will ever complete. The iRacing World Championship Grand Prix Series, the premier road racing series in sim racing, started with a new car taking center stage. Then, it was Martin Kroenke resisting any challenge thrown at him to break the 5-year stranglehold of Gregor Hutu as being world champion. These drivers and teams are not just competing for pride, they're competing for money. And with over $20,000 in prizes for each of the series up for grabs, drivers really do put it all on the line.
The NASCAR Beginner for Series powered by iRacing is the premier NASCAR eSports series featuring the cars and tracks from the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. The 2016 campaign saw a return to the top of the mountain by Ray Alfalla as a 3-time Oval World Champion. The march to that championship was not easy though, despite the fact that Ray Alfalla took home the most points in series history. It just also happened to be the tightest championship fight we had ever seen. These guys are set for the 2017 campaign.
The Blancpain GT Series hosts the top GT3 endurance teams in sim racing, with groups of 3 or more drivers sharing the wheel. This is a championship you can't win alone, and you need the same determination, passion and drive from your teammates to be successful. They often say that it takes just one mistake to lose a championship, and in team racing, it may not be your mistake that costs you the win. Last season, VRS Coanda SimSport won the championship by a single point. This year, who will step up to the plate?
These are the iRacing eSport World Championships, the pinnacle of sim racing competition. Catch it all season long with live coverage on iracing.com/live.
Back live from the Daytona International Speedway, cars on track for Super Duel number 2. So as we welcome you back to LSRTV and iRacing Live, we head trackside and take a look at our LSRTV starting grid for our second race on the evening. Ray Rittenauer, the second driver of the number 87 machine, is going to qualify on pole position for this race. Got that spot by finishing second in Superspeedway 500 qualifying 1 week ago. Doesn't matter what happens here tonight, he will start for the outside of row number 1 next week in the 500. He will be joined on the front row by Rodney Wofford. Best that 7 can do is win this race, and that would start him in 4th position for next week's season opener. 3rd position tonight, Scott Warren on the grid, going to be joined on row 2 by Andrew Berger, who will start in the number 4 position. Alex Halladar, the Shake Shack entry, is 5th.
Starting in the 6th spot tonight will be Ramon Evans, having a good start for him. Michael Cozy Jr. in the 7th spot, no qualifying time set. For none of them, actually. Glenn Hadrick in the 8th spot. 9th place, Mike Thiel. And 10th place, Andy Kessler, LSRTV zone.
We'll see what the 98 can do. Just a little bit behind him, another familiar face, Jared Haggerty, will start tonight from the number 11 spot. Billy Kruzka making his Superspeedway Cup Series debut will start in 12th. Larry Camp gets the unlucky number 13 starting position for Super Duel number 2. He's got a nice Busch throwback paint scheme on that Chevrolet. Outside of him is Sean McCarrick, who will start 14th. Just behind them, Dwayne Cooper from 15th.
So in the 16th spot today, Tom Dryling with Harry Tiller from the UK in the 17th spot, and Spencer Prato in the 18th spot.
So that's a look top to bottom at your LSRTV starting grid for Super Duel number 2. The Super Speedway Cup Series Season 15 Speed Weeks continues here tonight. If you were not with us last Friday for 500 qualifying and the shootout, once things are wrapped up tonight, I encourage you to go back and take a look at that and make sure you're with us next Friday for the first official points race on the season. Well, points are on the line here tonight. Wins do not count for the playoffs. Make sure you're with us for the biggest race on the season, the Super Speedway 500 next week. 1 down and 1 to go. We're happy you're hanging tight with us at LSRTV and iRacing Live as we get set to do it again. American Ethanol green flag flies underway for duel number 2.
It's a good start, but a lot of shuffling around. Actually, back there in the rear end of your pack, a single file already towards a sharp end though. 87, written out a second there with flat Wofford on the outside, pushing well. The 24, Andrew Berger with him, also running those commemorative schemes like in English I promise. 21 and the 83 in good spots. There's all big familiar numbers here, and they're in a very good position.
And you can actually see the outside running up strong. The first race we saw tonight off of both the green flag start of the race and off of the only restart we saw, outside really struggled to get up to speed. And that's not something uncommon to see with the Cup cars. But the 7 is going to lead lot number 1. Rodney Wofford, Mr. Daytona. By the way, mentioned that shootout that we saw 1 week ago. Well, Rodney Wofford was there. Technically, it was his 21st career win at a Superspeedway Cup Series. Although it was not points, it's not going to count to the career total. This man loves this place, and he led lap number 1. You see those bright blue Miller Lite paint schemes on track once again, and it appears that they are working with each other once more. As we saw in that first race, while not officially teammates, everybody seemed to be on the same strategy. In that one, it would appear to be the same, with Wofford being pushed by Berger on the outside of the racetrack as the 87 Rittenauer looks for the race lead. Good push by the 76 of Warren should get him lap number 2.
It's looking that way right now as the outside lane starts to drop back a little bit. Guys choosing where they want to run in this one and making sure they're in the exact right position to go forwards here. They saw how the first race ran. They know what cautions will do to their race duration, so it's one certainly to keep an eye on. I don't think Mike Thiel started the race, by the way, Evan, so he's 1 down already. And Sean McCarrick on his own back there, started from pit road. He's in 17th, a long way back. Back into your main pack is 16th place with Spencer Prato. And everything's pretty much single file apart from the 2 Miller Lights on the outside. And, well, that's not going to last long.
I was just taking a look back for Mike Thiel, and it looks like that driver did not take to the green flag at all, not currently in the session. So not going to be the best way to get a good starting position for next week's 500. If he does not start at all, they'll just simply take a DNS. So 17 drivers out of a possible 18 taking a green flag in this second Super Duel. In the first one, we saw only one caution flag in our 45-minute contest. It took up about 8 minutes to complete it. With that one caution, we saw a little bit over 50 laps of action. So again, well, the laps really don't matter. Just kind of spitting them out for reference points here. It is important to keep an eye on laps as far as monitoring how far these guys can go on the new 55% fuel cells. But the main thing that you need to be focused on for Season 15 is that timer up at the top of your screen. Once that clock gets down to 0, white flag will come out. That'll be the last lap of the race. Still quite some time till we have to worry about that. If we stay green flag pit stops would be due up. We had a lot to talk about when that happened in the first race, but we watched the 64 of Halidar make a first boot for the race lead. He goes inside to outside.
He does, and well, they've got the 64 up there on the high side, and we'll see if that Shake Shack entry can get its lane moving forwards. It's been fast so far in practice. Will we see them go forwards now? And they're making some headway. They'll lose it into turn number 3, of course, as they always do, but can they keep something going? Can they keep themselves further forwards? It seems like 3 cars is definitely the answer to the 2 car we had before. Is that little bit of extra staying power as they'll hold in that kind of almost second place on the outside location. This run through the tri-oval will be critical for them.
And the 64, a little bit of a bobble on the outside. That time lost a little bit of speed. The outside is dependent on 2 things. Obviously the push, but also the side draft. And not being too aggressive at the moment is the 64. Almost a car length between he and the 76. You'll see he'll enter the corner wide. Oh, the 77 problems. Michael Cozy Jr., I think, just lost the engine at a turn number 2. He did. So he will slow to the apron. The 21 got into him. So maybe some damage with Glenn Hedrick, who lost some speed, but Cozy losing the engine drops to the apron, and Glenn Hedrick collects some damage from being right behind him.
You know, when he recovered it back and he kind of swung back up on the track, I thought he still had his engine there, Cisco. Sorry, Evan, not Cisco. But he actually did lose it, like he just said. I apologize for that one. But it's Wofford and Berger still out front there with the 6 alongside the 87. Jared Haggerty there pushing himself forwards. And Folger's machine, the bit of a body tap there at 87 of River down second. That's what you call the side circuit going a little bit extreme, but you've got to keep his eye on where the 76 is below him. Scott Warren is a little bit up from where the 87 was running. The 06 will pick up the 6.
Well, that's the risk when you pinch is typically you enter the corner wide, because if somebody's going to drift up the hill, it's going to be, in the entrance of the corner. So you give them a little bit more space into the corner, and then you kind of walk yourself down closer and closer, getting a little bit more aggressive on the side draft as you go through the corner, assuming that those guys sitting inside are going to have a little bit more control of the car on exit, but they can still push up, and the 87 push just a little bit, and it's going to be the guy on the outside who takes the hit. And you saw a pretty good shot to Jared Haggerty's machine, a little bit of visible left side damage. Doesn't look like it's going to be a big issue. He drops in line behind Harry Tiller in the number 6th position. Speaking of the 6th Adana, Tiller started in 17th position. It's only lap 8. He's 5th.
Yeah, he's moved up very well so far, and that's been a big advantage for him. But Harry Tiller, we know he's a fast guy on the plate tracks, tenacious and very much a one-man band when it comes to this stuff. He's always out for number 1. He's a bit of a Chaburko, actually, in the European leagues, actually, Evan. I've raced him myself, and he's very much the Chaburko. He's a little bit erratic, but he's very fast.
And showing it right now, picking up those 12 spots. Speaking of that engine that we saw go for Cozy, we saw something similar to that happen in the first duel when we saw a driver lose an engine as well. It was Jorgensen from up front. So the concerning thing for me about Cozy is it happened so short into this race, only 7 laps off of the green flag. So you really got to watch those temps on the digital dash and to keep an eye on those temperatures. Make sure you're not too aggressive early. We saw a lot of pushing in the open race. Wonder if these guys will be any more timid in the second one.
I'm absolutely doubting they will be any more timid. I can suspect they might be a bit more aggressive, knowing what's to gain from how much things got shaken up in the first one with the finishing positions. So could be a real advantage to go hard here and make something happen. You've got a spare car, of course, this is a caution, so there's not much to lose in his first run here, but they've got to be careful they don't burn up too many cars in too much time.
So only Michael Cozy Jr. has lost his lead lap status. He was able to coast that number 77 machine to pit lane, get the quick fix and get back out there, but it did cost him a lap. So a quick caution to flag would get him back on the lead lap. He's the only driver 1 lap down right now, but also Sean Carrick has lost touch with the lead group. Still on the lead lap, but 20 seconds off of the guys up front and running nearly 10 miles an hour slower without the benefit of the draft. Is going to cause him problems. If he doesn't get a caution relatively soon, he would obviously go on and then lose his lead lap status. But up front, single file inside of the top 8. First challenger going to come for the 06 of Tom Dryerling. He works on the outside with the number 72 Chevrolet of Spencer Preet. They're working up the top side. They've, it looks like the 64 on board with their cause, so you could add Hallinar to that charge up top. The drivers trying to make something brew.
Yeah, they are, and it's not really brewing too well right now. They're a little bit too much all over the place, as the guys on the inside really are a lot more hooked up here, and that's going to be a big factor. Cars on the outside, 72 and the 06, as up comes the 87 of Rittenauer, seeing the momentum go forwards. He wants to try and ride that wave here, as it will get him alongside the 24. He'll get an overlap into 7 in the corner, which is a pretty impressive, good boost of speed he got. Can he maintain it out of 4?
The best time to get a run is if you can line it up out of the corner. So he's got the big run down the Daytona super stretch. You see, he tries to get to that quarter panel of the 7, trying to slow that 7 machine down. Not going to be able to get it, though, by the time they end up in turn number 3. He's got to time it up so the 06 gets on the bumper right off of the quarter. A lot more difficult, though, to make a pass from turn 4 to turn 1, because you got to go through that tri-oval, and it gets a little bit dicey. If you keep those cars hooked up at a quarter, 87 going to be as good as the 3rd that time by.
Yeah, he will be, and 3rd is not going to be where he wants to be. He wants to be up in 2nd or 1st, but he needs a bit of a better run than that. And right now, he's only got the 06 behind it. It's too far back. The 19 and the 64 are trailing. They've moved up as well, but it's not really hooked, as up comes the 7 of Watford to block, as he does check that momentum very aggressively there. See a bobble from the 87 as he actually maintains a bit, but he will drop back. Still momentum killed. Normally you pull up to the side to pull that lane forwards and drop them, killing a run, but he chose just a straight up block as all contact. 24 and 87 nearly turning each other there, coming out into the tri-oval. Could have been a big disaster.
That was almost big, because they weren't square on each other's door like when we saw the 87 make contact a little bit earlier on in this race. He was on the right rear quarter panel of the 24, and that 24 got sideways. They did a good job of hanging on. Now they're bump drafted at a quarter number 2. To the race lead goes Andrew Berger. First time tonight. Very slowly walks down to the inside, so the 87 wasn't able to get in between he and the 7, and kind of a good way of kind of switching and doing that swap. Now the 7 pushes the 24, as opposed to the way it was vice versa. Bad news, Tom Dryerling got forced out to the outermost lane in his low Chevrolet, falling back with no help.
Yeah, very much so, and not going to be able to do much with that one, as right now he's stuck in a very tricky spot in terms of holding on. The last car in the lane is typically dropped very easily, Evan, especially on the outside. It's doubly hard there. So it's actually hard for the 06 to hold up there. He's going to drop in line and save his own running position, as this one's feeling much quieter than the first race.
Yeah, made it past the further, so I guess before a caution to flag. They did in the first race we went about 12-13 laps before we saw a caution to flag come out, working lap number 15 right now, which again brings up the note of fuel. Unlike as it has been in seasons past, where the fuel has been limited, but maybe just a little bit shy of a third, limited up in the 70% range of the fuel cell. This season, the fuel cell is at 55%, so pit stops going to be a lot more abundant, and maybe about 5 laps away from getting to that point in this race, and working lap 16 at the moment, so you gotta think it's gonna be coming soon. We saw one exchange of green flag pit stops on that opening race, Rachel, and a lot went down. One driver was in the grass, another driver was in the wall. You gotta be careful when you slow these things down for nearly 200 miles an hour.
Oh, for sure it does, and they will have to make sure they are playing this one safe, because time is going to be not something that's on their side, especially if you consider that really these guys are needing to focus on working their way up. If they don't do it now, well, it's going to cost them much, much later on.
Outside still coming strong with the 87 and the 72 up on the outside, but the 06 of Dryerling trying to come back, and he's bringing a new face up, Dwayne Cooper, who started this race at 15th. He's trying to come up top side. You see the 7 of Rodney Watford looks to go for the switch again. So he was leading the 24. Berger went to the outside, jumped in front of that line, and then ducked back down in front of the 7. And I think Watford wanted to do that same thing, but in fact it didn't get enough of a run. And instead of just swapping things out, they're side by side for the race lead.
Yeah, they are, and that's going to be a big advantage when it comes to controlling the lanes. Of course, they aren't teammates per se, but they've worked together in the past. And right now, they can work to control this race, and they're doing just that. There's no particular reason for them to get too aggressive, but this does bottle up all the cars behind them in both lanes, and that can lead to more packed racing. And when it gets tight, people make mistakes.
Just seeing who all is making a big move. Spencer Preet is the biggest mover so far to this point. Harry Tiller behind him has also made up a lot. Preet gone 18th to 5th, and Tiller from 17th to 6th. Hearing drivers talk on the radio, though, about maybe coming down pit road this time. Nobody from the lead group gonna dive down quite yet. I think you're still about 2 or 3 laps shy of making it to that point with 18 laps complete of distance in this race and nearly 15 minutes of our 45-minute clock out of the way.
Yeah, the clock is definitely running down, and these guys have to pay attention to that. Long way to go, but we will be seeing pit stops fairly soon. Of course, we know we get about 20 laps, so we're on lap 19. Maybe 3 or 4 more laps in this one. We'll see if that's the max we'll get, but it's going to be close. And we did mention, well, I don't think we mentioned what we found out during the break. These guys are running 58% tape here. Minimum is 40. So this is actually a fairly aggressive amount of tape, which is why we're seeing some engines pop.
Here comes the move, 3 wide. You would think approaching the pit stops are trying to single file things out. Not the case, and the 72 needs Dryerling to go with him. He will. So 3 wide in the center of the pack. That's really tight at Daytona International Speedway. And the 06 hesitated. They both went up top, and then it looked like Dryerling was going to stay in the middle. That hesitation killed their momentum, and I don't think that third lane's going to work.
No, absolutely not. Third lane will never work here. 72 is being a little optimistic, but look at the 69 there, slowly inching his way forwards. He's in third on the inside lane now. That's a big advantage for Tiller. And the biggest difference with this is he's an unknown to these guys, Evan. He is not one they normally race with, so they're not going to be too sure of what he's going to do.
20 laps on distance complete. I think we were in that fuel window with 14 drivers on the lead lap, and 13 of them are in this lead pack, and we are 2 wide. Expect things to get pretty crazy as they fight to get to the inside. That is if you are planning on coming down pit road this time. You're going to have to slow yourself down for about 195 miles an hour at a corner number 4 down to pit speed of 60 miles an hour. You could be conservative on it, and you could easily get down to that line, but these guys always pushing the envelope, going to be a little bit more aggressive. Who comes down this time? At lap number 21, a handful of drivers coming in. Scott Warren, Harry Tiller, Jared Haggerty, Glenn Hedrick, Ramon Evans, Spencer Preet, Billy Kruska, Alex Hallinar.
Yeah, they've all come down early for that first swipe at pit road, and it's looking pretty clean in for most of them. Everyone getting into their boxes, no real trouble. We're going to see what they go for. I'm going to keep my eyes here on Harry Tiller, who's running third in the inside line. We'll see what he does in terms of his stop. No, fuel only from Harry Tiller. Interesting call. He makes a couple of spots with this one.
Yep, some drivers going to go fuel only. Some decide to go with 2 tires. Race off for the pit lane is going to be won by Jared Haggerty amongst those drivers who did decide to go with the fuel only. Next group of drivers, here they come. Andrew Berger at a corner number 4. Watford in, Rittenauer, Cooper, Dryerling, and it looks like those are almost all the
Big
drivers
sideways.
that were left. They come down pit road. More than not, relatively clean for everybody. Things got a little bit tight at the back. I believe that was the Ray Rittenauer entry, but clean in. Looks like everybody got down to speed in time.
Renault second, going full Dixter Hazard there, sliding into the pit lane a little bit sideways, but got it done, and he's in his box. It's a good box for him. He's the first one, of course, off. Will not be first off. He gets out third, though, in that group. And it's a very slow exit. He spun his tyres horribly.
It was a well-executed pit stop for the 24 and the 7. They were the first two drivers into pit lane, and they are the first two drivers off of pit lane. Dryerling is going to pass Rittenauer. That's the first change. But now you have to see where these drivers are going to blend out on the racetrack with the drivers who have already pitted. Those who pitted one lap prior shouldn't have any sort of a time advantage as far as coming down and getting fresh tires like you would at any track besides a super speedway. That's not a thing. But the advantage that they will have, if any, is that they've already made up momentum. So watch the 6 of Jared Haggerty coming through the field at about 197 miles an hour compared to the 184 of the drivers who just exited pit lane. I think Berger and Wofford might be okay. I think Dryerling and Rittenauer are going to get passed up, though. We'll see.
Yeah, that could definitely be a disadvantage for them because I think the momentum will eat them up. Possibly not, though. I think they may just be far enough away to kind of meet this group coming up at them with the 6, the 69, and the 76 and just get buffered forwards rather than get past because the closing rate is a little too slow now. It's almost slow enough that they could block them in and keep their positions.
Speed difference is about 8 miles an hour, but you're right. The advantage that they have is there's two of them working together. And we'll see if the 6, the 69, the 76, if they all agree to go to the outside, they'll probably be able to pass them. But the 6 might just decide to pull in line here. We'll have to find out. So what was 3 groups is going to become 1. And a fantastic job on that second group of drivers who pitted. Berger, Wofford, Dryerling, and Rittenauer to take over the top 4 spots in this thing. The 06 is the only one who doesn't want to be part of the group. He'll go to the outside, and that's going to cost him some spots nobody else bid.
So it costs him a huge amount of time in this one, unfortunately, which is not what he wants to have, of course, in this situation, but he could certainly do it and not be in too many bad positions for it. But right now, the lap traffic up ahead might be an issue. That is, I think, the 21 of Hedrick, who's finding himself in a very unlucky spot after his pit stops. But lap 25 here, and we're 25 minutes remaining, so this has been very clean so far. Green flag stop. It's normally a symptom of continued green flag running. Things are spread out, but with so many having pitted together and this group really reforming here, we could be back to the action very quickly.
Right, oftentimes, and we saw it as a perfect example in SuperDUEL number 1, was that when you go through pit stops and you have problems, or just drivers who can't execute sliding into the box and too far and, you know, whatnot, that the lead group often gets broken up. And it did a little bit in this case. We're down to 9 drivers in the lead back, but 9's a fantastic number to get after a cycle pit stop. You had guys like Cooper and Hallinar and Evans drop back a little bit. They're about 7 seconds back, 10th, 11th, and 12th respectively, but 9 drivers in the lead group means that we're not in a position where it's 4 drivers running around. You're right, with 9 drivers there, things can get doubled up and get back to the action very quickly. We are at what was the halfway point in duel number 1 at this moment. We're at lap number 27. For about half the distance they completed in the first duel, but again, first duel had a caution, so if we can remain caution-free for the next 24 minutes and 13 seconds and get to that white flag, the second duel would be longer, which means that drivers wouldn't have to come back down to the pit lane for a second trip down.
Yeah, second trip is actually almost looking possible here, of course. Look at the time we have left. I mean, they've had 20 minutes, so yeah, I think if it stays green, we will see a second green flag pit stop. I don't think there's any way to save those extra 5 minutes, but we get a caution that could change the whole game.
13 total drivers run on the lead lap at this moment, and we're seeing the first group of drivers go to the outside. So the 19 of Billy Kruzka, if you join us for some of the special events that the Drive for Suicide Prevention puts on, the 19 will be a familiar name to you, but he's a new name on Friday evenings, and he is making his Superspeedway Cup Series debut, getting a push from the 21 of Glenn Hedrick, who is a lap down. So like we saw earlier in the night in duel number 1 with Jorgensen, and as well with the number 23 machine, we have a driver that is a lap down that is battling it in the group of drivers who are battling for the race lead. So Hedrick is trying to either stay here so he can stay in the first position 1 lap down, or he'd like to get to the front of this group so he can get his lap back. The 19 Kruska got cut off by the 7 Watford, so Watford swaps race lead positions with the 24 once more. But let's see what the 19 can do up there.
Yeah, the 19's in a good position to make something here, and Billy's 12th starting position, not a bad one for him, but again, a relatively unknown in this series. Puts him in a very difficult position. Same for a couple of others in this field. Like I said, we've got people like Caruza, we've got the likes of Tiller, we've got Dreiling, who's run a couple of races but still fairly new. Prato is fairly new, he's very new. Halinar, fairly, McCarrick, quite. It's a blend in this event. Here we saw the big names in the first round. This second race is a lot of new people, so we've got a lot of unpredictability, Evan, but it's been very quiet so far.
Yeah, things are taking their toll nice and slowly here, and if we're looking at time, less than 22 minutes to go from Daytona. So let's take this opportunity to take a look once more at our iRacing Midway Race Break, brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. And in the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing with officially sanctioned series by NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, and more. Things gonna get shuffled up as Kruska gets kicked to the back, but here's how they run at lap number 31 tonight. Rodney Wofford is your race leader. Andrew Berger in second. Billy Kruska was third last time on. Tron Dreiling in fourth, with Ray Rittenauer running in the number 5 position, with Jared Haggerty P6. Spencer Preet in seventh. Harry Tiller is eighth, with Scott Warren in ninth. Those are the drivers in the lead group. Dwayne Cooper 11 seconds back, runs 10th.
Yeah, so running in 11th place right now is Alex Halinar, right far back within the group. Ron Evans also running on his own. Andy Kessler in the 14th spot at first car lap down is Glenn Hedrick. Behind him it's Sean McCarrick, Larry Camp, Michael Cozy Jr. and Mike Steele.
So that's a look top to bottom at your iRacing Midway Race Break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, you can go to iRacing.com and sign up today. If you are considering signing up for a first-time iRacing membership, the first place you want to go is iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. A couple of exclusive promo codes that are going to be good through the end of 2017. A 3-month iRacing membership for less than $5, or if you want to go big and get a year, you can get a 1-year subscription for over 50% off the sticker price. Again, those are valid on new iRacing memberships only, and you can get more information on that at iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. So into the final 20 minutes, the SuperDUEL number 2 will squeeze 3 wide as we lap the 98 of Andy Kessler, who lost touch with the lead pack. He will fall down 1 lap, and will technically become the first driver 1 lap down, because Glenn Hedrick is battling with the 7. If he can get in front of the 7, he would unlap himself, which would be good news for the 98 camp.
It'll be huge news for them, of course, but right now he's trying to just balance that, and he doesn't want to get too involved here because it could cause bigger problems. 21 though, very much used to being on the lead lap rather than being this 1 lap down position, fighting to stay on the front. So the 06 spin up on the outside, and they kind of shows a patchier outside lane here. Could be what he needs to stay out front to put himself in a great spot if we get a caution.
And the big question there is if we get a caution, and that's really the only thing that Andy Kessler and the likes of McCarrick and Larry Camp can hold on to. Being laps down, also Cozy in a tough position because he is 2 laps down in that 77 machine as he's a part of this lead group, so he really wants to get in front of the 7 as well to get himself from 2 laps down to 1 lap down. So if he does get a wave by under the yellow, he would get back to the lead lap and still not be stuck a lap down. So as you look up front, the 21 is a lap car, the 77 is a lap car. Your race leader is the 7, Rodney Wofford, who despite leading this race doesn't have the conventional advantage of clean air.
No, he doesn't, and that's especially with the engine overheating we've seen and the high tape numbers we're looking at, and the way the bubble of air has changed with this rules package. It's put them in a bad spot, and the outside line here is dicing pretty hard, so we could be seeing them cause a problem for themselves. But very, very clean so far. 77 drops down. That is the car of Michael Gossi Jr., who's scored 2 laps down. He's right in the middle of these lead lap guys. He's up to the top, although Wofford, as he's going to go for the move here on Hendrick and put him, well, back in the pack. The leader actually wants to be out front. There's all contact there as they go through 1 and 2.
Oh, behind him too.
Just
87 and 76.
Wide.
Couple of close
Come on,
calls in
boys.
the center of the corner to hang on, but Rittenauer still 3 wide. The 6 doesn't want to give it up at the bottom. They'll double file things out back there as the battle for the race lead. The 7 and the 06 getting in front of Hendrick. So that's bad news for the 21 because now he would have to rely on the lucky dog, and that's also bad news for Andy Kessler because now the 98 is no longer the first driver 1 lap down. With the 21 being re-lapped, Kessler no longer gets the advantage of the lucky dog, and contact for the race lead. It's not coming to the stripe, but it sure looked a lot like Piscini and Rod flagged that time by as Dryerling first time tonight, P1.
Yeah, it really is. And right now, Dryerling in a great spot for his race. This has been a fun one for him. Tom Dryerling, first time we've seen him out front, well, since he's been in the series, of course. But look at, wow, actually look at the back quarter panel. He's been hit hard in that right rear there. The Apex Academy driver, just a bit of a banged up rear bumper. That's not what he needs.
We talk so much about how plate tracks are so aerodynamically sensitive. If it's a little bit of damage, the pack will treat you just fine. But if you have significant damage, and in fact, if you're leading a line, most importantly, that's where the problems come from, because then the guys behind you are only going to be able to do so much to push you. So we'll see how that works out, but somehow through all of that, you got that number 21 machine back in front. Hedrick back on the lead lap. The lead lap line is technically behind him. He just now has no longer been lapped. He's 45 seconds behind the 06, although the 06 sits right on his bumper. So he's really trying to work both lanes. That's not what he wanted. He went up to slow down the 7. The 7 went high, and that's the Earnhardt sucker hole in the middle. If everybody on the lead lap commits to the inside and the outside, he'll be going straight to the back.
Very much so. 21 stuck in that sucker hole in the middle. He's going freight training his way towards the rear of this field. There's nothing he can do, but with the main lines on the bottom and on the middle, oh, they come back together as they head into 1. 7 and 24 dropping down hard. 76 and 6 kept on the high side.
And I think the 76 would really like if he can get it behind the 21 and the 6 not pass him up. So still, that was not what the 21 wanted to see it. It was a little bit of a sly move, courtesy of the 7 and the 24 to go up to that third lane. Really threw off the 21. The 72 loses the engine. Spencer Preet, third in line on the inside. He'll drop the Napa Auto Parts Chevrolet to the apron. He just lost that engine in the center of the pack. Could have been a lot worse. Is able to safely get out of the way. He'll be close enough to pit lane to coast down there and get a very quick repair, get back out there and maybe stay on the lead lap, but second to blown engine on duel number 2.
Yeah, that's a little bit hairier than we thought we'd see in this one, so I'm quite surprised, frankly, that he got himself into that sort of position, but he's managed to hold on with this. He really kept that car out of the way, even with a blown motor, and we're seeing quite a few of them in these 2 events.
If there's a place to lose the engine, I guess it's coming out of turn number 4 when you're on the inside lane. That's probably as good as that situation's going to get. You lose it on the outside, you're forced up there, an incident's more than likely to happen, although we did see an incident earlier tonight when somebody lost the engine on the inside. So I do have to give props to Preet for getting that car out of the way. He was able to coast it to pit lane. He is back out on the racetrack right now and hoping for a quick caution. He is still on the lead lap, but now being by himself. If we continue to run green, you'll see him go by on the top side somewhat shortly. Something else we have to talk about is, well, getting close to pit stops once more. Went to lap number 22 and lap 23 for that first trip down to the pit lane for the first, lead 2 groups of drivers who pitted. So, as we watch the time click down towards 13 minutes to go, lap-wise, we're working lap number 41, so about 4 laps away from that pit window for your race leaders.
4 laps away, and that's going to put us into a good position for this one, where we see the second green flag stop. I never thought we saw that with 30 minutes of the clock. They're going to have to very soon, Evan. And you're right, it's about to be 21 laps, I think, since they last pitted, so these groups will have to split up now. Thankfully, no 2-wide pack running means it's pretty simple to get on off pit road, but well, will they all make it a second time?
Yeah, that's the trick. There you go. You see the 72, a Preet drop back on the outside of the racetrack. He will fall off of the lead lap, and because Hedrick is the first driver one lap down but is embedded with that lead group, Preet's going to fall down to second driver off of the lead lap and not even be in the lucky dog position. I'll tell you what, though, well past the halfway point, closing in on 10 minutes to go. SuperDUEL number 2 may just be able to go green to the end of it. Drivers not down up front, at least, to the pit lane this time. We do say Rittenauer drop down pit road. Tiller going to come down, as well as Haggerty and Warren.
Yeah, good start by those guys as they come onto pit road here. Very well organized. We'll see if anyone takes tires this time by. Once again, I'm going to keep my eyes here on the car belonging to Harry Tiller. I looked at him last time he came down pit road, and again, is no tyre call from Tiller. He just takes fuel only, and he gets a good momentum out of pit road. And he will actually come off not quite first, but it has a momentum to carry him past the 76 into the first place in this line, so great stop by him.
Under caution, he would have been off third, but because he had the momentum, he leads that group off of the pit lane as they try to blend things back out. Now, on that first cycle of pit stops, it was the second group of cars who took the advantage, and the drivers who just pitted did pit from the second set of drivers in that lead pack. So as we await Watford and Dryerlane, Berger, and Warren to come down to the pit lane, do have to note that, rather not even Warren, because Warren's 7 seconds back. So those are the drivers that pitted. So Watford, Dryerlane, and Berger are the top 3 drivers on track. Expect them to pit. They did not come down pit road the lap immediately after the last time by. Watford on the radio now, expected maybe they'll be in at lap 44.
Maybe they will, and that's really what they have to do, I think, very shortly to make sure they get themselves into position, because the fuel's not going to last much longer. It's not exactly a big tank with these reductions.
Oh, in contact, there they go. Dryerlane going to get turned. Hedrick off the grass, and problems entering pit road. We escaped it the first time. I thought we were okay on that one, but it was the 21 Hedrick who got sideways, trying to get down to speed. That car got out of shape. He tagged the 06 to Dryerlane, and while Hedrick spins out due to his own cause, Dryerlane, it collected in that one at no fault of his own.
Certainly was, and Hedrick not where he needed to be, but these things will happen in racing, and it's put him in a very awkward spot. Second group is coming off pit road now as the leaders come back round from the start-finish. Watford and Berger is coming off pit road right now. Dryling on pit road, Tiller and co, they'll be actually headed towards the lead if they can keep this one up. Where is Watford and Berger? They're going to be up to speed, I think, just in time to stay out front, but it'll be close.
And a third driver, and that is Cozy, who pitted with him, but Cozy's still 2 laps down after being the first of what has now become 2 drivers we've seen tonight to lose their engine. So the 7 and the 24 have gone to the point. They remain up there at the moment, but there's only 2 of them. So do we see Tiller, Warren, and Haggerty work together as a group of 3, go right to the outside if they catch them and try to do something? I think the 7 and the 24 have enough of an advantage over them distance-wise right now that when they are caught, it's not going to be a quick enough closing rate for the 69 to simply drive around them, but they're about 8 miles an hour quicker as they start to close in. Big question is what Tiller does. Does he commit to just driving in line behind them, or does he want to go 3-1? And if he does, the latter of those options, will the 76 and the 6 work with him?
I honestly think if Tiller can get to them, I think Tiller will go straight for the outside of the momentum. He's selfish enough to do that, but he's a racing driver. He has to be selfish, and I think in this case he has 2 people that will go with him if he makes the move. I think they can just bypass these guys. These guys are all what we'd say have been mid-pack for most of this race. If they get the chance here with the closing rate they've got to go round the 2 guys who've been at the front all race, sure they're going to do it. He's already signaling that his intention is to go around them, and they're both decided to come with him. Choo-choo, the train's going to go past the 7 and the 24, and I think all 3 could potentially clear them on the back by the end of the backstretch at least, because the momentum's still carrying them to the corner on the high side. That's how much momentum they had, is they're still pulling past in the corner.
And the key was that all 3 of them went, and they were still about 6 miles an hour faster, so... Yeah, got him. So 69 to the race lead, 76 to second, and the 6 to third. That will drop Rodney Watford back to 4th. and Andrew Berger to 5th. Now, those two could work together. They're not going to get passed by those three. The three got in front of them, but they're not going to pull away. So now we're back to one group of 5 drivers up at the front of the field. 8 minutes to go for the Daytona International Speedway. So if those three keep working together, the 7 and the 24 are going to have to go high side soon. But within 8 minutes, we're almost at that point of no return. So you got to think if a caution flag is going to end this race, you got to get going now. They will go to the inside of the racetrack as everybody else goes up to the fence.
They do indeed, and up to the fence it is. It's a bit of a defensive run here, although the 6 has got the 7 alongside him on the inside. Tiller and the 76 are going to have to drop him there. Say, sorry, 6, we have to pull down here. Haggerty will have to stay on the outside because there's momentum carrying the likes of Ramon Evans and the 77 here up behind them. So they got to make sure they're in a good position to lock this one down. 6 could get an elevator ride, though, as they go forwards.
And here's where things get complicated again. So Ramon Evans in that 83 machine is 12th. He is a lap car. The 77 of Michael Cozy is 15th. He is a 2-lap down car. So the 87, though, who has been kind of towing off of those guys, is battling for the lead. Ray Rittenauer in that 87 machine. So you're seeing up front right now 8 drivers. 6 of them are for position, everybody but the 83 and the 77.
It certainly is, and the 77 there, not on the lead lap as you mentioned. Oh, up the hill goes the 76.
Wow. That was a lot of speed he lost.
Yeah, huge amount of speed he's lost there, and that's giving momentum to the 6, the 83 to move forwards. 7 and the 69, sorry, are still holding strong on the inside, but it might not be for long.
Well, tough break for Scott Warren is going to go for the race lead to the back, and in fact, I think he might lose touch with this group. 76 lost a lot of speed on the outside, and he may just lose touch with that lead pack. We talked earlier in duel number 1 about how difficult it is being the last driver in a pack to hang tight. Scott Warren may be seeing his opportunities to fight for a race win start to dwindle away. 6 minutes to go from Daytona. Battle for the race lead. The 69 of Harry Tiller going for it this time. He'll take the race lead, bringing the 6 with him. Haggerty back to P2.
This is getting dicey. I think if we're going to have a caution, it'll be fairly soon with the way they're racing, but the 69 out front, the 6 could help him there. Haggerty may not forget, though, getting left out to dry earlier.
Yeah, race car drivers never forget, and that's the kind of tricky thing about plate track racing is you need help. You can't go out there and do it by yourself in a pack. You got to get somebody to help you on the outside. If you're on the inside, you need somebody drafted to help you. But come the end of the race, you really don't want to be loyal to anybody, so you have to be friendly to a point. If somebody doesn't help you earlier, you're going to make sure to take a note down and make sure that you do not help them when this race comes down to the end of it. So Haggerty looks to the outside. Did not work, though. The 7 didn't go with him. Wofford dropped in line, and although he got Berger to go with him, the outside loses ground. So now, back about 2.5 car lengths on that outside is the 6, trying to claw himself back up. Still Tiller in the lead.
It is, and all the 77 and the 6 are very, very close there, and one of those guys is a lap down. The 6 wanted to wedge his way in, as up comes 87 there, written out a second. He wants to go with something here, as he'll have to try and get himself some opportunity, but it's a good run there for Rittenauer. He actually carries himself right up towards Tiller. Can't hold the line there.
And again, the 77 lap car, so maybe the 66 trying to show some dominance and say, hey, I'm using you up and you're not going to do anything about it. So he decides inside, outside, back to the top. He'll just ride both lanes right down the yellow dotted line in the middle of the road. As they head off to quarter number 1, he will commit to the bottom. So that's going to leave the 87 with no help, and Rittenauer is going to drop behind him. So now, single file things back out. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 4 minutes left to go on the clock. That'll put us roughly at about 4 laps to go. It depends on how quickly we get to the start-finish line. Inside of 30 seconds on the clock. When you take to the start-finish line with 30 seconds or less, that will be the white flag. We'll let you know when we get to that point, but a caution at this point on would end it.
Well, a caution will definitely finish this race off now, and well, I don't think, no, they're getting, I don't think they're going to do it, and then they start to do it, so of course it's getting very hairy right now.
A lot of contact with a 6 and the 87. Rittenauer is not going to let Jared Haggerty bully him out of a position. A side swipe, trying to force his way through. Look at the 7 for the race lead. Rodney Wofford crosses over Harry Tiller, and he'll take the inside to the race lead with 3 minutes to go.
Really is, and this is getting very busy. Could a 6 push the 69 past? Will a Brit win in the Superspeedway Cup Series? It's entirely possible at this rate. Jared Haggerty giving him the biggest push of his life at this stage as Tiller will drop back down again. Still 2 minutes 40. So, we're going to
Oh, there they go.
Yes,
He's
caution.
going to come back up. Caution flag is out. This race is over. Rittenauer heavy damage, and at the moment of caution, the 69 of Harry Tiller is in control of the field, and he will hang on to win duel number 2. He's going to have to be able to pace his way through the final 2 minutes in this one, but things were getting dicey there late, Rachel. We had to expect that something like that was going to happen, and the 7 was way up above that yellow line, and to be fair, all Wofford was doing was following the 69, but the problem for the 6 is the only thing that Haggerty can do on the outside is pinch. So he sees the 69 move down, expects the 7 to follow him down. That did not happen, and he came down on him, made a little bit of contact. The 6 got turned. That would have been okay. One driver below the double yellow line, but Wofford was so bent out of shape, he clips Rittenauer. Rittenauer with a heavy hit into the fence. Remote Evans collected in that one. The 24 basically wipes out everybody else that was left in that lead pack, and caution flag had to come out.
Yeah, it really did. There's no other option at that stage, and it was something that could have been a good one, but unfortunately just bit in the wrong way, and it's kind of put us in that spot where, unfortunately, the what could have been a fantastic green flag finish will now just be completely under caution.
Correct, with only about a minute left on the clock, no way we're going to be able to open the pit lane this time by for lead lap cars, do another lap at a caution, open the pit lane for lap down cars, and then get a 2 to go and a 1 to go. That takes almost 8 minutes under the caution flag. So it's really just a question of if Harry Tiller's got a pace for 1 more lap or 2 more laps. And again, anything can and on occasion has happened in the sim. And especially when you're working with so many electronics and internet connections, you can never count anything out. But Harry Tiller just has to be able to get to the checkered flag under the caution flag, and he'll be able to hang on. And we've been talking about a couple of the new names in this race in particular. McCarrick, we saw Cozy a little bit towards the end of the prior season. Kruzka, Preet, well, Tiller, one of those names. The new faces making a statement here in Speed Weeks.
Yeah, they really are some fantastic runs here from new drivers, and one I'm genuinely actually impressed to see how it will progress.
9 drivers look like they're going to finish this one on the lead lap. The battle is not over for the 87 Ray Rittenauer. He was involved in that accident right at his number 87 machine and is trying to limp to pit road if he can. He'll get himself a P5 finish in Super Duel number 2 if that engine can hang on.
Absolutely, and the engine might just live, but it'll be very close.
Drivers as well who did not have much success tonight. Larry Camp, Sean McCarrick, Michael Cozy, some of the names we're going to finish 2 laps down. Once the checker does fly, we'll take an official look top to bottom at your LSRTV full race results. But again, this Super Duel number 2 was qualified for the outside row of next Friday's Superspeedway 500. 1 week ago, we saw the 88 of Mark Jorgensen and the 87 Ray Rittenauer qualify on pole and second. So they are able to maintain those positions. So if Harry Tiller could win this race, as it looks like he will be able to do under the caution flag, that Harry Tiller would qualify at the best position you possibly can in this race, and that would be the outside of row number 2. He would start 4th. Next Friday night, Andrew Berger, who finishes 2nd, would start 6th. Ronnie Watford, who finishes 3rd, would start 8th, and so on and so forth as they qualify for the outermost positions. So for the 60 of Tiller, another interesting fact, if he can hang on to this one, it would be the first driver not stationed in North America to get a win in the Superspeedway Cup Series. Although technically not a playoff win, and one that counts for the points as far as regular season points. Points are on the line tonight, so I'll still count that as a valid stat.
Blowing motor for the 87. Can it last? That's a question. That's P4 if he can hold on. His car is smoking very heavily, but yeah, if Tiller can hold on for this one, it'll be the first time a non-American wins in this, or non-North American, shall we say, wins in this series. But let's just remind you, Harry Tiller has been part of the UK&I's successful World Cup's Intimate Superspeedway team for the last 3 years. So UK&I certainly can produce its Superspeedway races, Evan. It's just there aren't many exactly in this series. Let's not forget, I got a 4th in my last time I ran here.
It's been a while since I've tried it, and it did not work last time I decided to drive on a Friday night race. It was a couple of years ago, and the discussion on that is not going to continue at all, so there's a reason.
No, it's not. I do remember, though, that one time that I think you were commentating when I started. It was a late restart. It was maybe I was second car on the outside lane behind a certain LSRTV affiliate who desperately needed a good result and who I pushed, and who was unfortunately restarting in 4th, and we wrecked the field. So we don't talk about that one as much as we don't talk about it.
Well, we'll let bygones be bygones, as Harry Tiller is going to come to the start-finish line at only 70 miles an hour or so. He's going to take the checkered flag. He is your winner in Super Duel number 2. And that locks him into a P4 starting position for the Superspeedway 500 next Friday night. So now let's take a look at your LSRTV full race results for Duel number 2. Tiller started in what ended up being last position in this race, with Scott Warren not taking the grid. He went all the way from the back to the front, so congratulations to the 69 machine for that. Andrew Berger is going to come home in second position tonight. Ronnie Wofford with a third place result. Your pole sitter, Ray Rittenauer, was able to limp the 87 home with an engine that was barely hanging on and everything to maintain a solid points night for the driver who locked in P2 for the 500 by qualified a week ago. Spencer Preet came from 18th position to finish 5th tonight, a great improvement for the driver of the 72. Billy Krusko comes home in the number 6 spot. Tom Dryerling is 7th. Alex Haladar is 8th, with Dwayne Cooper in 9th as the final driver on the lead lap. First driver 1 lap down in the top 10 for, it looks like, Andy Kessler.
11th place will be Glenn Hedrick today. Ramon Evans in the 12th spot. Michael Costa Jr. in 13th, with Sean McCarrick, Larry Camp, Jared Haggerty, Scott Warren are your finishers for today's race. Mike Thiel did not take the grid.
That is a look at your Super Duel number 2 results. We'll take this opportunity to step aside, and when we come back, we will talk with your top finishers and let you know what's going to be going down next Friday for the final week of Speed Weeks and the official season opener of the Superspeedway Cup Series Season 15. But still to come, post-race from Daytona Beach will be in Victory Lane when we come back. You're watching LSRTV, the voice of sim racing. Welcome back live to the Daytona International Speedway for the LSRTV post-race show following the conclusion of now both of our Superspeedway duels at Daytona. We now have a clear idea of what the starting grid is going to look like for next week's Superspeedway 500. We'll talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. First, we head to Gatorade Victory Lane, down trackside with the driver of the number 60 Honda machine. Harry Tiller is your winner tonight in Super Duel number 2 from the Daytona International Speedway. Harry, congratulations on the checkered flag there. It was going to be interesting as we closed in on what was roughly about 3 laps to go or so with the time. The caution flag comes out, though. You're out in front of the field. You get the win and the best possible starting spot possible. How was it?
Well, I'm surprised I won that in the end. I was lucky with that final caution. I think the 24 and the 7 might have got us in the end because we lost the 76 on the outside, and I was working with the 6, but it just wasn't it wasn't working in the end. I think they would have got us, but the caution came out just at the right time.
This race, unlike what we saw in the first of our Super Duels, went caution-free, so you had to navigate yourself through 2 cycles of green flag pit stops. And we did see a couple of people struggle on the second trip down to the pit lane, but obviously the key for you guys to being able to stay up front and subsequently be in the lead when the caution flag ended up coming out was being able to maintain contact with everybody and staying up front. How much in communication were you, if any, with the guys on how that pit strategy was going to work? And obviously you guys were able to do so successfully.
Oh yeah, well, I was, like I said, I was working with the 6 and the 76, Scott and Jared, and we got through the first pit stop fine, and we didn't come out right at the front like we wanted to, but the second pit stop was perfect. We got in and out well without any issues, and when we got back on the track, the 24 and the 7 were just stuck out front, and it was just us 3, and we got round them, and then it was just playing a game because the setup we had, it was running really hot when you got on the draft. It didn't take much to get the temps to go through the roof, and we had 2 people blow their engines through the race, and it was a bit sketchy, and that's why people kept changing lanes quite a lot. And I almost lost the lead a couple of times sitting on the bottom, just letting them go up, because you just couldn't push for over 2 or 3 laps because it was just going to kill the engine. And yeah, it was just, I was in the right place at the right time. Just being out front was the best place to be.
Points on the line tonight, so you guys are going to be able to walk away with some points, and playoff points most importantly. And although it's not technically a full points night and the season officially begins next week, I know that for you guys it has to be big coming into this series to find success early on, because a lot of these drivers, every time we come on, we mention, I mean, this is the 15th season of the Superspeedway Cup Series. There aren't a lot of leagues on iRacing that have been around for that long, so a lot of the drivers have been racing each other for 14 seasons plus. And for somebody like yourself new to committee here, I know that a key thing is, and we always find it interesting when we get a big rookie crop to see how some of the new drivers interact with the veterans and try to earn your respect. I think you successfully did that tonight by the win. So how important was it to come on here and make a statement this early?
Oh, it's huge to come out and show that you're one of the better guys out here, or not necessarily one of the better guys, but one of the guys who is going to be pushing up there and getting to the front. Like, at the start of the race, I think I started last, and it didn't take me long to get up in the top 5. But no, it's about making friends as well, and just like making friends with Jared and Scott before the race even started. Just have people in the race is huge. If you don't have anyone in the race, you're stuffed, and that's why in the end we were good, because we had 3 cars compared to Andrew and Rodney's 2, so it just gave us a little edge. But no, it's a big statement to come out and win only my second race as well, and after leading a couple of laps in my first race.
They're going to be nice and close to the front come next Friday for the Superspeedway 500. That one going to be very different, though, than this one. Obviously, the timed races are going to be what makes up the bulk of Season 15, excluding special events. Well, the Superspeedway 500 is one of them. So it's going to be a lot longer of a race. The field going to be twice as big, and it's going to be 124 laps in comparison to the 55 that we completed tonight. So what are your expectations as far as what might be a little bit different next week?
Wow, it's going to be just a different complexion, really. I mean, I want to get to the front and just lead most of the race, because I think that's going to be the safest place to be, and just trying to keep that fast repair for the last quarter of the race, and well, maybe even last 1/5 of the race, because you never know what can happen when it comes down to the end. You need that repair, because you lose that early on, and you just got to play conservative, and that's not really my forte. I want to be up there in the mix of it, trying to lead all the laps, and I don't know, it's just going to be different, and people will give and take a bit more at the start, but then when it gets to the end, I think it'll be even closer than it was tonight, because you're gonna have people who really want to win that, and that's the big thing. I mean, I think all teammates go out the window in the last 20 laps of that race, so every man for himself.
You guys made a statement here tonight by winning Super Duel number 2. Harry, we'll let you take off. Before sponsors and shout-outs, anybody you want to say hi to while we got you?
Well, I just want to say thanks to UK&I guys that I've been racing with, because they're basically that's got me to this position to be able to compete with the top guys. I mean, Rachel knows the guys that I've been racing with, and it's we have a good community over there. It's a shame it's not like it used to be, but just with all the team racing now. But it's just good to find a league where you can have a good time and get on with everyone and have good racing again. I think I've been missing that from my racing for a bit, and it's good to finally find something new. But it's just refreshing to enjoy it again, because it got a bit too serious for me, and I had to take a break for a bit, and just getting back into it now, and hopefully I can run up front and just have good races and enjoy it.
Well, we're taking a look at your car. It already has one of those winter stickers up on the rail up there, but if tonight is any indication, you might have to add a couple more of them. Harry, thanks for sticking around and chatting. Hopefully we can do this again as the season goes on. Congratulations. Best of luck. We'll see you next week.
Before we let him go, Evan, though, Harry?
Yes.
You're a wizard, Harry.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Sorry, it's a UK&I thing. Anyway,
I saw you guys
Evan,
chatting down there in the thing. I
yes.
gotcha.
Moving on, though, we do, I believe,
is your winner.
Somebody else.
Yeah, Andrew Berger, second place tonight. I know that we weren't able to talk with everybody from the first race, but Andrew Berger comes home at second in this one, and track side with him is Rachel.
I certainly am. Andrew Berger. Tough one today. You might have actually had that close towards the end. Unfortunately, your tandem coming out of pit road just didn't hold the speed that the trio cars coming up the outside did, but you had a very strong showing in this race. Is this a sign for the 500 next week?
Yeah, I definitely hope so. Yeah, Rodney and I were trying to work together throughout the race, as you guys obviously saw, but yeah, there at the end at the pit road, I saw those three guys were teaming up, and 2 against 3. I mean, it's hard to beat that, but I know coming to the end there, it was getting a little hectic. We were banging and hitting each other, and I wasn't sure what was going to happen there, and they eventually wrecked, and I just happened to slide my way through the grass and hold on to second place, so it was a pretty crazy race.
Certainly was, of course, and things have been interesting with how these cars are handling in terms of the tape and the fuel load you guys are running. Is this going to be something that might be a major factor in the 500 next week?
Yeah, I think everybody was trying to figure it out, especially at the end. Everybody was getting their motors were pretty hot, and as you saw, a couple even blew up throughout the race. Yeah, that definitely plays into the strategy. I mean, you got to keep your motor cool, or you're not going to be able to push the guy in front of you, and then your line's not going to move, and everybody gets ahead of you. So it's definitely a strategic play to keep your motor cool. So, and then, of course... So yeah, that'll definitely play a big role in the 500 next week.
Awesome. Well, hopefully best luck next week. Anybody like to give a quick shout out to?
Yeah, I'll just shout out to the Joshua Hanner and the tribute paint scheme. A lot of us guys were running tonight. The winner of the original first Superspeedway 500. Shout out to him, and sad to see him leave iRacing. But glad for everybody that had a solid run for him and put his paint scheme up front. So next week we'll be back to the DuPont. Got to get back to that, and hopefully the DuPont guys can win it next week, and hopefully we can have a strong showing to start season 15 and get this 5th championship.
Awesome, well, best of luck. And that was Andrew Berger, who came in today in the 2nd position. Evan? Looks like I also have P3, which was Jared Haggerty today in the number 6 car. Jared, you pushed Tiller to the win there, of course, and your car looking very strong when it's coming to 500.
Yeah, it was pretty strong all night. Not the result that we wanted. Again, I'm not going to judge. I know I came down a little bit, but I know I didn't come that far down, but still, I really wish you could have had the win there. Yeah, that's all I pretty much got to say about that one.
Certainly was. Well, thanks for joining us there, Jared. I believe, Evan, you have Brandon.
Yeah, he was hanging out with us topside, and we were going to try to get an opportunity to chat with Brandon Cruz Monsivice under a caution flag. And, well, we didn't get a caution flag in the second duel. So, Brandon, you still got us?
Yeah, I totally wasn't even ready for you. I had my washer going on in the background, shutting all the doors and everything, so it isn't obstructing the broadcast. But yeah, I'm here.
Well, congratulations on the good result in duel number 1. I know that as this duel was going on, you were kind of feeding us some information as far as, you know, what you had experienced out there as far as some of the things that had to do with the tape and such. So I'll give you a chance to talk about what it was like out there in the duel and kind of what you think that means for the 500.
Well, I can tell you this much. I think the 500 is going to be the best race that Superspeedway Cup has seen in quite a few years. The package that we're running right now offers a whole lot of drafting opportunities and a whole lot of different ways of using it. Granted, the outside line may die off. There's not a lot of cars out there, but it's going to be a good race. A lot of guys can make their cars do whatever they want. And you can pretty much put these wherever you want without them getting loose or getting tight on you like previous setups we've had.
Also, obviously, some of the changes, the fuel cell is going to be different, so that means a lot more trips down to the pit lane. I think that adds a lot more of a technical aspect to things. I don't think it necessarily would give anybody more of an advantage and disadvantage some people, because I think if you've really got plate tracks figured out, you can manage getting on and off of the pit lane. But with a large group of 17 drivers in this race, so at least 34 in the 500, you have to expect that things are going to be a little bit more chaotic. For you guys, getting the top 3 finish in the first duel, and then obviously that's going to give you a good starting spot for next week. Our race winner in duel 2, Tiller, talking about how he wants to stay up front and he thinks the best option. What is your thoughts on that?
Oh, I definitely agree with what he's saying. I mean, just like in real NASCAR in the Monster Energy Cup Series, you got to be up in there and you got to be aggressive the whole race. You can't really stay back like you used to in years past on the sim. That doesn't work anymore. I mean, I'm the guy who used to do that a lot, and with these guys, you have to be aggressive and you have to keep that track position. That is the number one thing that'll get you good finishes. And I don't just mean that because it's obvious. I literally mean you need to stay up there the whole race, or you risk not being able to get back up there later in the race when everyone's 3 wide and shoving and banging and trying to make all these crazy Chaburko-like movements at the end. So track position and staying up is definitely what you need going into these races, and aggression is what you need. You can't really just lay back, like I said, anymore. You have to be aggressive and you have to take positions when you can.
We've made a couple of notes on guys like Paul Servant who have made great improvements in this series, and I think that you guys are closing in on being a contender week in and week out, and maybe that second win is going to come next Friday based on how good you guys were tonight. You've been hanging out with us for a while now, so we will let you take off and get to the laundry. Sponsors and shout-outs before we do, though. Who makes it happen?
Well, obviously, I got to thank the Voice of Sim Racing, the greatest broadcast service on iRacing LSRTV, for putting on all the broadcasts and all the tremendous performances from the people in the booth. I mean, you guys are way better than me coming in here. That's why I stayed in here the whole time. I like listening to the pros. Definitely Rod for putting on the series and everyone involved. I mean, this is an amazing series with a great group of guys, and a lot of the rookies this year, they're really cool. We've had some odd-ins previous years and other guys that cause drama and everything, but these guys are way cooler and way more fun to race with. So I'm definitely looking forward to this season, and thanks to everyone that watched the whole race, and if you're still watching right now, we really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
That is Brandon Cruz Monsivice. He's got a top 10 spot for the 500 next Friday, so thanks for hanging out with us, and hopefully we'll have another opportunity to chat soon down the line. Good luck.
Yep, thank you, Evan.
So that wraps things up here tonight for the World Center of Racing. We've had 500 qualifying. Now the shootout and then the duels have been completed. There is only one thing left on Speed Weeks, and that is the Superspeedway 500, Rachel, right here on LSRTV and iRacing Live next Friday, same time.
certainly will be, and I tell you what, I know I'll be here. I certainly will be. I hope we have as many viewers as we can, because these guys are off the hook. This is a huge race, and it is going to be amazing.
And if you enjoyed our coverage here tonight, why don't you stick around for a little bit. Make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. Click on that notification bell so you make sure that you know every single time we go live. But if you want to make sure you're really up to date, follow us on all the social medias, on Twitter at LSRTV, and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/LSRTV official. That way there's no way you miss when we will be on the air with iRacing Live next. So until next week, this wraps up our coverage for the night, but you can find our full broadcast schedule, including information on RSR Full Throttle Cup that's going to be coming at you next week. The Upstate Racing League going to be with us next week as well. All that information is online on our website at www.livesimracing.com. On behalf of the entire team at Live Sim Racing LLC, for the folks behind the scenes, for DJ Lion, and for the broadcast crew tonight, for myself, Evan Pasoko, for Rachel Whiteford, and our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, want to thank you for tuning in and congratulate our duel winners who are headed up to the front of the 500. So congratulations to Rod Flag and Harry Tiller on that. We will catch you next time, next Friday evening from the World Center of Racing, as we kick off the Superspeedway Cup Season 15 from Daytona. That race and every race right here on LSR TV, the voice of sim racing. Until then, good night.